Cassie Mora, a resilient and skilled warrior, navigates the complexities of being the secret daughter of Alpha Cole, who once rejected her mother, Ari. When Ari decides to revisit her past and reconnect with her estranged family, Cassie must face her father and a pack that never knew of her existence. Amidst personal revelations, family tensions, and a growing bond with Axe, her fated mate and an alpha himself, Cassie struggles to balance her loyalty to her mother and her emerging role as a formidable leader. As buried secrets come to light, Cassie embarks on a journey of self-discovery, love, and reconciliation, challenging expectations and proving her strength. Cassie Mora, 17, werewolf, dark blonde hair that goes down to her butt, silver eyes, and dangerous. Back is covered in alpha markings that lead up to her neck. Can speak Romanian, French, and Spanish, most comfortable in nature, specifically on or in water. Trust issues. Casual street fighter. Pack, risen moon of Oregon. Wolf's name, Lucy. Ari Mora, 36. Werewolf, mother to Cassie, dark blonde hair and pixie cut, blue eyes, level-headed, no markings, most comfortable in the woods. Pack, risen moon of Oregon. Wolf's name, Jessie. Axe Dragost, 18. Werewolf, short blonde hair. One eye is emerald green and the other is an oceanic blue. Sarcastic, loves archery, alpha marking on back and chest. Happiest in bed, asleep. Pack, hidden moon of North Carolina. Wolf's name, Alex. Cole Peck, 37. Werewolf, short black hair, silver eyes, stubborn, alpha markings on back. Pack, black moon of Tennessee. Wolf's name, Nick. Cassie's POV, it was a normal day. I come home from training, leaving my boots at the door, and walk over to Mom, giving her a kiss on the cheek. Except it wasn't a normal day. Mom was on the phone. Now, what's odd about that, you ask? It's not the fact that Mom was on the phone that was odd. It was the fact that she was about to cry that made it weird. My mom never cries. I set my backpack down next to the nearby recliner before taking a seat in it. I must have had a confused look on my face because as soon as Mom ends the call, she starts talking. That was your grandpa. He called to tell me that him and Mom finally got the divorce. Babe, he wants us to come for a visit, she says after hesitating for a moment. Mom, can you handle that? Is he gonna be there? I ask, referring to the alpha of the pack. Or at least he was when Mom left with me. She was 1 month pregnant and he was supposed to be her mate, however he rejected her. He hurt my mom and I don't want her around him. Yes, I can handle it. Besides, it will be good for you to meet your grandfather and uncle. And last time I checked, he was still alpha, so he will probably be there, she said with a chuckle. Why does your dad suddenly want to be in our lives? I ask, completely confused. He couldn't stand the thought of being around us for 17 years, and now he suddenly wants to be there. Why? He wasn't the one who you know what. We can talk about it later. Can you go pack and call in so they know you aren't going to be at training? Yes, ma'am. I say, walking away irritated. Hey, I love you. I love you too, baby girl. I go upstairs and start packing, mostly tank tops, and start making calls. Before too long, I'm packed and have called off of training for the next 2 weeks. When do we leave? Tomorrow at noon. He wants to see me as soon as possible. My mom said, not looking at me. Doesha know I exists? I ask my mom, trying to catch her eyes. Well, no, but I didn't tell anybody. He rejected me and my mom disowned me. I just never got the chance to tell anybody from there, she said, still not meeting my eyes. I get it. Hey, I'm gonna go for a run. I'll be back before midnight. I say, slipping my shoes on. Running always helped me relieve stress, and I need that right now. I get why Mom didn't tell anyone about me, but the thought of seeing him just makes my skin crawl. I've heard so much about him, that he was cruel when he got angry and that he was a player. I can't stand the thought of that man around my mom. As I run through the forest of the pack territory, I hear the stream nearby. I stop by it and take off my shoes. The most relaxing thing I can think of is sitting in the woods with my feet in a stream. So that's exactly what I do. Laying back, I close my eyes and take a deep breath. The moment I close my eyes, I see a pair of eyes looking back at me. I know these are my mates. A werewolf has one mate. If, like my mother, your mate rejects you, you have the chance to be paired again. The moon goddess, Luna, is a very considerate being. She understands heartbreak. If, like my mother, you choose not to find a new mate, your mate will forever be tied to you. Before you meet your mate, however, you see their eyes for a month before you meet them. I've been seeing them for a couple of weeks now, so I should meet him soon. I know I dozed off because when I reopened my eyes, the day had dramatically changed. Moments like these are the ones where I'm glad I wear shorts and tank tops for training. I hadn't changed yet, so if I tan, the lines shouldn't be too visible. I get up and put my socks and shoes back on and head back home. Looking at my watch, I see that it's only 10:25, but I'm hungry and we're having the alpha over for dinner. I know I'm probably late, but I'm more relaxed and usually dinner with the alpha gets tense. There's never really a reason, it just does. I walk up and see the alpha's truck already here, however. It's still warm, so they haven't been here long. When I walk in, I see them sitting on the couch talking to Mom. I nod to them and go upstairs to shower and change. It's take roughly 5 minutes to do the aforementioned, and after changing into a tank top and some shorts, I head back downstairs. I'm quickly greeted and we all sit around the table. So, Alpha Liam, I was contacted by my father and would like your permission to go visit the Black Moon Pack. My father and mother divorced, and he would like a chance to get to know me after all these years apart. I would of course take Cassie with me and let her meet her grandfather and uncle. My mother says with the utmost respect. Liam looks at my mother and then to his wife, Lily, whose eyes have swallowed her head. She looks from my mother to me and back to Mom before speaking. Ari, darling, are you sure you're going to be able to go there without being in extreme pain? You know what could happen, right? Lily says, looking at my mother with a deep look of concern. Though they were basically the same age, Lily had been a better mother than my own grandmother. I like to think of her as my aunt, and she never disagreed. She actually encouraged it. I assure you I am fully aware of what could happen and am prepared. I know I can handle it with Cass at my side, my mom said. Does he know she exists? Alpha Liam asked, looking at my mother with caution. He does not. She'll be 18 in less than a year and can decide if she wants him to be in her life. I won't stop her, my mother said, still using her business voice. I don't. I say quickly, knowing they heard me. Then I have no objections to you visiting your brother and father, on one condition, Alpha Liam says. Yes, me and Mom say in sync. The Hidden Moon Pack House is less than 30 minutes away from the Black Moon Pack House. I would much prefer you stay there. I know the previous Alpha and his son has taken over. They would gladly accommodate you, he says, looking at me and my mother with his hand of Aunt Lily's. Of course, Alpha. My mom says, then you have my permission. When do you plan on leaving? He asks, a little more at peace. Tomorrow at noon, Mom says. We'll be there to wish you off. Please do be safe, dear, Alpha Lily says. I always am, my mom says, hugging her. Dinner passes by rather quick and the adults talk over coffee, but I head off to bed dreaming about a beautiful pair of eyes. Hey, guys. So I started writing this book and will be taking a small break from my other book just so I can full recognize and plan for it. Have a nice day. Cassie's POV. Well, the morning passed in an uneventful blur. We said goodbye to Alpha's Liam and Lily and boarded the Pack's privet jet. Turning off my phone was the hardest thing in the world. Not because I was addicted to it, but because I was expecting a call from the coordinator. That's what we called him anyway. He organized all the street fights for werewolves. I just called him Joe. That was after all his name. The plane ride takes about 10 hours with a couple of layovers, and I can't wait to stretch my legs when it's over. Honestly, though, even on a private jet, it's still a pain to sit for that long. And don't even get me started on the food. School food tastes better than that stuff. When we do finally land, I jump out of the plane dramatically and start doing flips and cartwheels while my mother rolls her eyes. She's used to my antics and loves that I'm so spastic. The sarcasm is very heavy with this one. We head inside the airport only to be met with two friendly faces holding a sign with our last name on it. I look at Mom, who has a small smile on her face as we saunter, because who walks over to them. I presume you are the Alpha and Beta, Mom says, looking at the gentleman before us. The Beta and Gamma, ma'am. The Alpha had business to attend to, the blonde one said, smiling. I'm James, the Beta, and this is Riley, the Gamma. Nice to meet you, James. I'm Ari, and this is my daughter, Cassie. Mom says, holding out her hand while I do the same. Cass for short, I say whilst shaking hands. All right, well, if you'll follow us, we have a car waiting for us out front, Riley said. He's not bad looking. Neither of them are. James is about 6'2" and blonde with brown eyes, while Riley is 6 exactly and has red hair and green eyes. Neither of them are older than 25, that much is clear. I wonder what kind of business the alpha had to take care of. Mom asks me through a mind link, probably getting permission to enter Grandpa's pack. I respond, maybe, but the first time we go in, we're going alone. I don't care if they go in with us after that, but we're going in alone at first. I want you to meet your grandfather before we bombard him with people from another pack, she explains. Yeah, no, I get it, I say as we get in the car. So, what is it like in the Risen Moon pack? We haven't been in a while. James asks. It's really nice. The fight squad has improved a lot in recent years, and the scenery is truly fantastic. Mom says, looking at me when she talks about the fight squad. I train the noobs and train with the elites, so she takes major pride in me. Really? I heard that the fight squad has a new trainer who joined them just last year. Have you met them yet? Riley asks, looking back at Mom from the rearview mirror. Actually, yes. You have as well, you just don't realize it yet. Mom says, making eye contact with him. Really? James asks. It's me, I say. I'm not one to play dumb or coy. I like to say I'm not Willy Wonka. I don't sugarcoat. Seriously, you'll have to show us some of your moves then, Riley states. We've had a rough year. The teacher we had died with his mate last year, and we can't find anyone to take his place. Sad really, but he was getting older and he only had daughters. They both found their mates, and they aren't so keen on them fighting. So who's been teaching the training? I ask, confused. Surely you haven't been dormant for a year. Of course not, but we only had some of the olders teaching the youngers, but none are as good as him. James explains. We talk about some other nonsense for about 30 minutes before we arrive at the pack house. We are immediately greeted by the smell of fried chicken. We had the pack cook make you a meal as we assumed you'd be hungry. A usual Southern dinner includes James was cut off by my mother before he could continue. Not to be rude, but I grew up 30 minutes away from here, and I know that doesn't make much of a difference. I liked Southern cooking too much to live without, so Cassie grew up in it. We know what a Southern meal includes. Of course, I'm sorry, I seem to have forgotten, he said, blushing. Mom, that was rude. I'm sorry, baby doll, but I'm tired and hangry. I just want to eat, not hear about the food I'm gonna eat. It was still rude. Apologize, please. I'm sorry. That was awfully rude of me. I'm just tired and I get cranky when I'm tired. Thank you for being so kind and prepping a meal for us. Mom said, being sincere. It's truly nothing. James said, blushing once more. We enter the house and are given a tour and shown our rooms before we are told to get settled in, as dinner still isn't done yet. I decide to take a shower because I smell too much like other people. After a brisk shower, I quickly dress into a simple gray V-neck t-shirt and some black skinny jeans. Putting on my boots that go to mid-calf, I make my way downstairs to see my mom already there and talking to an older woman. Ah, there she is. This is my daughter Cassie. Mom says to the older women. I call her older, but there's no way she's more than 40, if that. Hello, dear. I'm Cassandra, but you can call me Cass. I'm the current alpha's mother. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Cassie, but most call me Cass, so I'm sorry if I respond when you're the one they intend to speak to, I say, apologizing in advance. Oh, and they even may be talking to my husband. His name is Caspian, but most people call him Cass, so it's always confusing around here. She says, laughing. Well, this is going to be interesting, I say, giggling. We have dinner and then sit around talking for a little bit before Cassandra says it's time for bed. Being the head of the house, everyone listens. After heading to my room, changing into my pajamas, a black commie and some teal and black shorts, I lay down. It's been about 2 hours of restless rolling around when I decide to get up and get some water. It's only 1 a.m, so why not? Hey, so I know it ends kinda suddenly here, but I have my reasons. Anywho, what do you guys think? See any errors? Let me know so I can properly fix it. And have a nice day. Cassie's Pav, we have dinner, and then sit around talking for a little bit before Cassandra says it's time for bed. Being the head of the house, everyone listens. After heading to my room, changing into my pajamas, a black commie and some teal and black shorts, I lay down. It's been about 2 hours of restless rolling around when I decide to get up and get some water. It's only 1 a.m, so why not? Making my way quietly down the stairs and to the kitchen, I retrieve a glass and, as quietly as possible, get me a cup of water. After I finish my water, I rinse the glass and set it upside down on the drying rack before I hear a slight noise that I recognize as footsteps. Obliviously, they are the footsteps of someone trying to be quiet, and they're doing pretty good, but I'm better. I quietly turn around and walk towards the edge of the kitchen in time to see a figure round the corner to the living room. A moment later, I hear the distinct sound of a body plopping down onto a leather couch. I hear the body move around a little bit, judging by the sound of skin on a leather couch, and after a minute it finally settles down. Obviously, the body is not an intruder, else they would have woken the whole house. I smell something familiar, but can't quite put my finger on it. Perhaps it's rain on a hot day, though not quite. Deciding I'll ignore it for now and investigate later, I go to head back upstairs when a freaking floorboard squeaks. This catches the attention of the body and it sits up, if the sounds are anything to go by. Knowing I've been caught, I don't bother to escape and just turn around. Running would wake up the whole household, and that's something I would like to avoid. Who's there? The voice asks in a whisper. I can now identify that it's definitely a he, and he's very tired. I don't try to answer and instead make my way to him. He meets me halfway, and it takes me only a moment to realize this man is my mate. And I'll be honest, I could do worse. His breath catches in his throat and he looks over me as I do the same to him. Oh yeah, I could definitely do worse. He's about 6'4" with short blonde hair and he is very well defined. Now here's the kicker. He has heterochromatic eyes. One of them is emerald green and the other is oceanic blue. They are absolutely gorgeous and I could look into them for hours. His lips are plump and I'm quite certain that his jaw could paper. That's how sharp it was. Looking over his face again, I notice that he still hasn't let out the breath he was holding and he seems to be biting his tongue. You okay there? I ask as quietly as I can, not wanting to wake the whole house. Just trying not to be cliché. He says, taking a deep breath. So, can we talk? Like go sit down and maybe get to know each other? I ask and see him visibly relax as if he was worried he'd be rejected. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. How about the living room? He suggests and sounds kinda nervous. We walk to the living room and sit down facing each other on the same couch. Both of us are sitting cross-legged on opposite sides of the couch. I guess we should introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Cassie Mora. I'm 17 and visiting with my mother from a different pack. We're visiting to see some long-lost family. I say simply. I'm Axe Dragost. I'm 18 and the alpha of the pack you are staying with. It's an honor to meet you. Your alpha speaks highly of you. He says, taking my hand that I had outstretched and bringing it to his lips for a kiss. His eyes haven't left mine since we sat back down. Sorry about all the staring. I can't help but feel this is a dream. That's the only place I've been able to see your eyes and I can't help but be mesmerized. I know how you feel, but I do need to talk to you about something. I say, okay, he says hesitantly. I'm not rejecting you, so get that thought out of your head. I say, and he responds with a deep breath of relief. I am, however, warning you that now may not be the best time to accept you. I've got a lot going on at the moment, and when I do accept you, I want to be able to give you my full attention. I grew up being taught that your mate is the most important thing, and I want to be able to act on my teachings. I would never reject you, and I would love to get to know you, but I would also like to keep our being mates secret for the time being. So let me make sure I got this right. Your reasons for coming here are too complicated for you to accept me as your mate for the moment, but you will, publicly, once everything is solved. He says and stops for me to confirm, which I do, before continuing. And you don't want to tell people because I don't want them to think I'm rejecting you and, for the moment, none of them need to know my mother's business here. As far as your pack knows, we're visiting family and staying here because our alpha requested it. I say simply, my mother will explain more if she wants people to know. Can I know how much deeper it goes? He asks. He's earned that right as my mate, the alpha lending us his home and for being so accepting of our circumstances. I was the product of a one-night stand between two mates. My father, the very next morning, rejected my mother. The reason we're staying here is because my father is the alpha of the pack. We don't know how he'll react because my mom was scheduled to move shortly after the event anyways, so she just got permission from the previous alpha to move. She was studying medicine in our current pack when she found out. Her mother had always hated her, and when she found out she had been rejected, her mother kicked her out of the house. Her mother and father recently got divorced, so we're coming to visit. Does anyone in her old pack know you exist? He asks with a look of shock on his face. Nope. Mom didn't even know she was pregnant till she got out to Oregon, and she didn't call anyone because she didn't really have any friends out here. I say with a shrug. We sit around and talk for another couple of hours before becoming too tired to continue. We agree to meet here again tomorrow and get to know each other. I get up to head to my room, but stop and give him a quick kiss on the cheek before turning and sauntering upstairs. I seriously hope this wasn't just a dream. Hello, thank you for reading. Please let me know if you see anything that needs correcting, and you should totally check out Topi0848. She's got an amazing book based off the Academy Ghost Bird series, and is just an amazing human in general, so go check her out and have a nice day. Kasispov last night was one of the best nights of sleep I've had in a very long time, despite the fact that I only slept for about 4 hours. It seems it doesn't matter how little sleep I get the night before I'm still gonna wake up at 5 a.m. Oregon time. Luckily for me, that means it was 8 a.m. in North Carolina and a pretty decent time for him to get up here. That was actually the time they had breakfast. Good morning, ladies. I hope you slept well, Cassandra said. We most certainly did. Again, thank you for your hospitality, my mother says, always having been one for extreme manners. I can gladly say I inherited most of that trait. Wonderful, and it's no problem. I hope you wouldn't mind joining us in the dining room. My husband, son, and father-in-law have returned from the business they had to complete, and we're having a big family breakfast. That sounds wonderful. May I ask who all will be in attendance? My mother asks, probably trying to figure out if we should go change out of our pajamas. Most of my family, including my oldest son and the beta and gamma. My oldest son no longer lives with us. Actually, he's just returned from college. He has a house just down the way. I thought you said your son was the alpha, I ask, butting in for the first time. Yes, my second oldest son, Axe. He took over because my oldest son said he didn't want it. He's never been a big fan of power, she says with a small smile. I'll be honest, hearing my mate's name caused a shiver to run down my spine that I had to suppress. That makes sense. Will we get to meet him? We have a few things to discuss, my mother informs her. Yes, but for now, please join us for breakfast, she says and leads us to the dining room from last night. In it, there are 3 people, 2 boys and a girl, all sat in a row. These are 3 of my children. My oldest, Ryan, my only girl, Emily, and my youngest, Easton. She sits down in the seat to the right of the head of the table, leaving the head of the table and the seat to her right open. The 2 seats across from her are also open, as well as the head of table on the opposite side and the seat to the left of it. Cassandra's sons are on one side, and her daughter is on the other side, the side opposite of Cassandra. The beta and gamma are on the same side as Emily, leaving the only seat open beside Ryan at that end. My mother walks to the head of the table on that end, and I walk to the seat next to her and stand behind it. My training has led me to never sit until the superiors have been seated. We soon hear footsteps. Not that that's hard, they're essentially stomping into the room. The first of the stompers to appear is an older-looking man that Cassandra rose for, and when his eyes looked into hers, they started to shine with love. One can only assume that's her mate, Caspian. He's not worst-looking creature, and in fact, he's quite handsome, but I'll have to say that Axe looks way better. Speak of the devil, here he comes, judging by the smell of rain on the hot pavement. An odd smell, but all of my best memories have happened as it's begun to rain. He walks in wearing a pair of sweatpants and a white V-neck. It shows off the muscles he has, and I have to do my best to not stare. We only met hours ago, and the mate bound is already killing me. He smiles and nods to his family and nods to my mother and I before standing behind his seat. His seat is across from his father's, whose is to the right of his mother's. While I was admiring my mate as subtly as I could, the last of their party enters. I look over to him in respect and can't help but react. Grandpa Whiskey? I whisper in shock. He looks at me confusedly for a moment before recognition alights on his face. DP. He responds and opens his arms for a hug that I can't help but run into too. He's the only person I've ever been childish around. My mother walks up to us calmly, poised as ever. "How are you two? How long has it been since the last time I saw y'all? We're good, and it's been a little less than 10 years. My mother responds as he wraps an arm around her, never letting me out of his embrace. That would explain why I almost didn't recognize my little beauty right here. "My gosh, how you've grown. You're almost prettier than your mother," he says, kissing me on the forehead. "Well, what brings y'all here? Whiskey, why don't we let them eat first?" Cassandra butts in. "Of course," he says, motioning for me to take the seat in between him and Axe. And of course I took it. Mom returns to her initial seat at the opposite head of the table, and the food is served. Tilda, after a hearty breakfast, all the officials and my mother and I went to the office and started discussing everything. She told the story of how she was rejected and left pregnant, and we had a discussion about how this was going to work. We also argued a bit about how my mother and I would go alone on the first day, and the boys could join us on the second day and any subsequent day, but we eventually came to an agreement. In other words, Mom said we would go alone. We argued for 10 minutes, and then Mom and Axe came to an agreement that the boys would drop us off at the meeting site and then return, but we were to go straight there and straight back. The rest of the day was spent conversing and catching up, and everyone forgot to ask us how we knew Grandpa Whiskey, so I suspect that, upon our return, that will come into question. I also stayed up late talking to Axe and getting to know him more. It was a good day. Thank you so much for reading. If you see any errors, let me know, and have a nice day. Cassie's POV. The next morning, I awoke at 5 a.m. and went for a run. It wasn't a long one because I had stayed up so late talking to Axe, but I needed to be energized to meet my long-lost family. Today, the Beta and the Gamma are going to take us to the border and let Mom talk to the Alpha over there. Then we're to go straight to her father's house and straight back when we're done. Though, Mom keeps talking about this little ice cream shop that she just loved and wants to see if it's still open. We're out the door and at the meeting point before I can thoroughly register what's going on. The Beta and Gamma get out before us and greet him before coming over, and while the Beta gets back in the driver's seat, the Gamma opens the door for my mother. She gets out, and for a moment, a look of utter shock crosses his face, but he's quick to mask it. His whole position has tensed, and I can tell his wolf is fighting for control. They talk for a moment, and he looks at the car, which the windows are tinted on, and asks why they haven't left yet. Mom explains that they're waiting for her to dismiss them, and they completely disrespect each other for a moment more before Mom motions for me to get out of the car. I get out and close the door, doing my best tint to show my face yet. When I finally do show my face to him, his eyes almost swallow his head and his mouth falls open. "Who is this?" he asks after a moment, the shock having finally worn off. It's obvious I'm related to him, but I think he's either in denial or wants confirmation. But that would be the easy way out and not dramatic at all. And that doesn't sound like my mother. "This is my pack's best warrior." My mother answers, knowing that's not what he was asking. "Who are her parents?" he says through clenched teeth. "Why does it matter?" Mom asks, purposefully attempting to irritate him. "Answer the question," he says, getting more irritated and fulfilling Mom's wish. I see her lip twitch and I know she's trying not to laugh. I'm just glad I learned how to school my face. "You answer mine," my mother says, letting a minuscule smile slip. "Dang it, women, I asked you first and I'm an alpha," he says, trying to pull that card. "You may be an alpha, but you're not mine," she says, and I see him flinch ever so slightly. A look of sympathy passed through Mom's eyes just as quick as he flinches, but they're both gone before the human eye would have been able to tell. "Why must you be so stubborn, women?" he says, taking a step forward, getting in her face and adding a bit of growl to his voice. "Never speak to my mother like that," I say, stepping between them and adding a growl to my voice. I may have been getting tired of their childish arguing, but no one gets to speak to my mother like that. "So she's your daughter," he says, addressing my mother from around me. "Who's the father? Why does it matter?" I state while my mother questions the same thing. We don't often speak in sync, but when we do, it's creepy. He growls in frustration before taking a deep breath and speaking again. "Do you even know who the father is?" he says, and I release a deep growl. "Her eyes are an interesting color, aren't they, Cole?" my mother asks, indirectly answering his question. My eyes are the same shape and color as his. It's obvious he's my father. He looks me in the eye for about 2 seconds before huffing and running off. After he's gone, Mom motions for the boys to leave, and we make our way onto the territory. Mom points out things here and there as we walk the path to her father's house, and though she may never admit it, I can tell she missed her home. The walk is shorter than expected, and before long we're walking up on a 2-story house. The house is an off shade of yellow, and the window sills and door are an odd shade of blue. It truly is rather interesting house, and judging by the look in my mother's eye, it always been that way. While there is a look of familiarity in her eyes, there is also a look of pain. Her mother hurt her greatly. It's a tale she's told me many times. I suspect some of those memories will be replaced with better ones now that her mother has run away. We get up to the door and knock on it gently. It takes but a moment for the door to be opened by a man no older than 35, but then again we are werewolves and we did age slower. "Ari, is that you?" he says, his voice a deep baritone sound, and his voice sounds almost tearful. His eyes are glassed over with unshed tears, and he looks shocked to see her. "Andrew, it's good to see you again," Mom says with a slight smile on her face. "Andrew, who's at the door?" a voice says. This voice is a little more gruff and obviously older. I can only assume that that would be my grandfather. My uncle pulls my mom into a hug, and I see and few tears run down his face before he buries his face into her neck. If Alpha Cole was here right now, he might throw a fit at another male putting his face near her neck. Then again, I suppose he wouldn't care seeing as how he rejected her. "Ari," the gravely voice says, now much closer. His voice is also slightly tearful, and Mom pulls back from her current hug to look her father in the eyes. "Hi, Dad," was all she got out before she was pulled into another bone-crushing hug. "You never called to confirm, and I thought for sure that that meant you weren't coming, and I would never get the chance to tell you how sorry I am for everything I put you through, and I. He says, breaking into sobs and stuttering out what he could. "SHHHHH. It's okay, Dad. It's okay. I didn't get the chance to call back. We got permission and started planning the trip out here." Mom explains, rubbing his back like she did to me when I was younger and sad. "What do you mean we?" Andrew asks before looking in my direction and wiping his eyes. My grandpa, whose name I've not been told, looks up and sees me through his tears. He straightens up and wipes his eyes before looking at me in full and then back to my mom. "And who might this be?" he asks my mother. "This is my daughter. Cassie, this is your grandfathers, Marcus, and your uncle Andrew. Boys, my pack's strongest warrior and my pride and joy, Cassie Mora." Mom says with a smile on her face that shows nothing but pride and love. I can't help but smile at the look on her face. "I'm an uncle. Do you know who the father is?" Andrew asks Mom, probably not thinking about how bad that sounds. Mom just gives him a look that says, "Really?" "I just realized how bad that sounds. Sorry, Ari, I'm just in shock. I mean, I weren't even pregnant when you left. You were never socially active, just really focused on your career." "You must have met your mate then," Marcus says. "Is he here too?" "Probably somewhere. He rejected me the night before I left. That was just before I was supposed to leave for the study program, and the next morning Stella disowned me. At that point, I had no reason to stay, so I just asked the Alpha if I could permanently move out there. Once he heard everything, he agreed. I plan to visit him tomorrow and thank him for everything he's ever done for me." Mom explains and pulls me into a side hug. Explaining this has always been hard for her, and I have always been a sort of lifeline for her. "He's in this pack," Marcus asks, looking affronted. "Honey, you didn't have to come back. Had I known, I would have never asked you to come here." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I've long since gotten over it. The Luna above blessed me with a piece of him to allow me to get through the rejection," my mother says and kisses my forehead. "Why don't we head inside?" Andrew says. Everyone agrees and we head inside. Thank you so much for reading. Please inform me of any mistakes that you might see, and most importantly, have a nice day. Cassie's POV, the house is much nicer on the inside and has obviously been taken over by men. Probably the two in front of me. We all go to the living room and sit down on the leather couches. "I'm sorry, Cassie. I have been awfully rude. Please tell me us a little more about yourself," my grandfather says, speaking to me for the first time, Not that I hold it against him. He's only just seen his daughter for the first time in 18 years. There is nothing interesting about me. I'm our pack's strongest warrior. I like to run, and I've been asked to teach the warriors of multiple packs, including the one we're staying at while on our visit. I state simply, there truly isn't much to tell about myself. I spend all of my time training defend, and my guard is rarely ever down. Even now, I stand with my arms crossed and my feet placed shoulder length apart. Always on guard, I hear my mother mutter. She also loves to read, and will spend many hours down by the pond near our house, reading and soaking in the sunshine. She's brilliant at art, and though she'll never admit it, she loves children. I have no quarrels with admitting my love for children. It's just dangerous to admit to enjoying the presence of something so defenseless. Especially when you have enemies and no way of defending them. I say, looking at my mother. You have no enemies who would dare go against you, much less attack the children you often take care of. My mother says with a roll of her eyes. So you often take children under your wing? Andrew asks with a hint of amazement in his eyes. Yes, I'm very much like my mother in that aspect. I say, feeling my lip twitch in a momentary millimeter smirk. We spend the next 3 hours talking and order Chinese for lunch because we were all too involved to cook and the boys wouldn't let Mom cook. It got to the point where we were laughing too much I had to sit down. I was still on guard, but I was able to relax a little. And then, at about 12, we had a visitor arrive. Andrew got up to get and came back with an older-looking man. He looked very similar to Alpha Cole, and I can only imagine they're related in some way. Alpha Jason. My mom says and stands up. Ari Mora, the last time I saw you, you were getting ready to leave for your big future. What are you doing round these parts? Jason says with a cheese-eating grin. Circumstances have changed. I'm back for a couple of weeks to reconnect with my family. My mother left. She says, hugging the older man who is her older alpha. So did you accept the Luna's offer for a new mate? He asks, looking down at her from the hug. His face only shows concern, and I suppose at his age he doesn't have anything to worry about. No, I ended up with a piece of him, and I never would have been able to move on. Not that I really want to. Mom says, coming over to me with a smile on her face. This is the first time the older man looks at me, and a look of shock comes across his face. He stares into my eyes for a moment, and I see his gloss over. I get not being able to move on. Who's this? He says, though I feel like he knows the answer. Jason, meet your granddaughter Cassie Mora. Mom says with sadness and joy in her eyes. It's an odd combination and one that makes want to hug her, but I know she would prefer I didn't in this moment. Granddaughter. I hear my uncle and grandfather ask at the same time. You didn't tell them? Jason asks, looking at my mom in confusion. I didn't want them to hate their alpha for a decision he made when he was a teenager. Mom says with a shrug. It was a decision that ruined my baby girl life. Marcus says, angrily. Cassie's POV, I carry Mom into the house when we back and lay her on her bed in the guest room, setting up an alarm to get her up in an hour and go to Axe's office to give him a rundown of everything that happened while we were there. Hey. How'd it go? Axe says, opening the door wider for me to come in. Whiskey, Caspian, and the beta are already in the room. It went pretty good. I can now say I have been introduced to my father and both of my grandfathers as well as my uncle. Luckily, I didn't have to talk to my father much. I got to know my grandfathers and uncles pretty well, and they seem like pretty okay people. Just like we discussed, we went straight to the house and straight back. No problems were encountered, but I do have to talk to my mother about having a civil conversation with my father. I say, giving them a simple briefing. You think she'll go for it? Whiskey says gruffly, not liking the idea of Mom being upset. I think she will if I ask it of her. I wouldn't want to upset her either, Whiskey, but I also think that he deserves a chance to talk to her about the subject. I say, looking at him. Mom always gave me the choice to meet him, but now that he's met me, I want to give him the chance to understand why I stayed away. It's only fair that I give him a slight chance to actually meet me. It may be the only chance he'll ever get. I'll tell you what. I'll bet the one accompanying you tomorrow, and if your mother agrees to it, we'll meet him at a small cafe on my grounds so no one from his pack has the opportunity to stick their noses where it doesn't belong. I can mind link the pack to stay away from the cafe for a little while, and we can have a private conversation. He can use the excuse of coming to see me so less questions are asked. Axe says, leaning back in his chair and putting his feet on his desk. That sounds good. I'll talk to Mom about it when she gets up from her nap. Is there anything else we need to discuss? I ask. You said you met both of your grandfathers. Does that mean that you met your father's father as well? Axe asks with a raised brow. Yes. He heard that my mother was back in town, and he was the only one who knew about her rejection and the fact that my father was her mate. He didn't know she was pregnant, but then again, neither did she until she was already in Oregon. He is extremely disappointed in his son for rejecting my mother. His family always loved her, and if it hadn't been for her being rejected, they would have taken her in and let her continue her doctor career in the pack. I say, a bit of sadness leaking into my voice at the thought of all that my mother went through. Your mother is very brave, dear. She was and always has been a very smart girl. She'll make it out of this with the best outcome. She always does. I mean, she got you, Whiskey says, coming over to hug me. I smile into his shoulder. Guys, time to wash up for dinner. Cassie, sweetie, your mother woke up. She says thank you for the alarm. Cassandra says, knocking on the door. We'll be out in just a minute. The rest of you can go ahead and head out. I just want to talk to these two about the plan for tomorrow. Whiskey says, clapping Axe and I on the shoulders. Just don't take too long, Whiskey. Caspian says, and gives his wife and mate a nice kiss. I make no promises. He says with a smile and closes the door before the smile is wiped off his face. All right, children, sit. We both do, and with raised brows. Now, how long do you two plan on hiding that your mates? How'd you know? Axe asks, sitting up in his chair. I know what a pair of mates looks like. Whiskey says, but I know the truth. Cassie's POV, we have to talk. I say, approaching my father. This morning, my mother and I were accompanied to her father's house by Axe, as anticipated. We stayed there for a while before I announced I had a meeting to go to, and I went off. That meeting is with my father, who I tracked to his office and talked his beta into letting me talk to him. So here I am, bursting into my father's office, telling him something he need to know. John, you're good to go. This is a private meeting. I'll call you in if we need anything, he says, waving the beta away. Once John is gone and out of earshot, Dad drops his pen and rubs his hands across his face. What did she say? She agreed. It will be me, you, her, and Alpha Axe. We'll meet at a little cafe on his territory tomorrow. It's usually reserved for meetings, so no one will question why the cafe is closed to the public, and no one from your pack will have to find out. You can bring anyone that you want to, but they'll find out information about my mother and I. I would also like to request a meeting with you the day after the meeting to discuss a few things. I say in rapid order, laying everything out on the table. That all seems doable. Alpha Axe knows everything, he asks after a moment, looking deep in thought. He's been informed. It was one of the stipulations of us staying with him. He doesn't judge you for your decision, or at least he said he wouldn't need until he knew your reasons. That's one of the reasons why he wants to be there tomorrow. He says that what he finds out tomorrow will not affect your peace treaties or resources. He wouldn't put the pack in danger because of a personal reason. Another reason he's going to be there is because he has to so that all of your reasons and excuses pan out. I explain the reasoning behind everything. He nods and takes a deep breath before releasing it slowly. Why do we need to meet the day after? He asks, looking up at me with a look of confusion. I have so many questions I'll need to ask you after everything. Tomorrow is your day for questions and the day after is mine, I explain simply. Why did she keep you from me? He asks, his voice cracking the slightest bit and sadness evident. It was my decision. She told me the truth and I made the choice. It physically pained her to try to tell you. I can tell you from experience that the pain she went through trying to tell you was excruciating. I felt it a couple of times in the womb and a couple more times when I was just a baby, and she forgot to close the bond. It was as if the Luna above refused to let her tell you. I say, zoning out. Why would Luna keep you from me? He asks, zoning out and his voice evening out a little bit. Maybe she thought that a child would be too much for you too. Maybe she wanted you to grow up on your own. I say as we both sit there completely zoned out. We stay that way for a solid minute before my phone went off, informing me that I had a text. I already knew what it was. Axe said that he didn't want me gone for too long and that he would text me if I stayed out. I rolled my eyes at him and walked away, but I knew he actually would, and I was proven right when I checked my phone. All right, I've got to go. The Alpha joined us today and he wants me back. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow then, he asks, standing to walk me out. You will. You might want to prepare a list of questions tonight so that tomorrow can play out smoothly. Ask as many as you want and the importance doesn't matter. It could be the simplest thing or the most important question of your life, though. I can't say that we'll answer everything, but everything we do answer will be complete honesty. I say, standing up and walking to the door. He nods and opens the door for me. Cole's POV, I can't believe I have a daughter. I only ever slept with one person, and that was Ari, and I was drunk. I barely remember it, and now I have a daughter, and she's so strong. She had to get that from somewhere. I didn't really talk to her mother when we were younger, but if she was anything like she is now, then she was a pill. Why did I even reject her? There's so much I want to know about her, about both of them. I'm so glad Cassie convinced Ari to give me a chance to talk to her. I suspect Cassie would have if she wanted to, but the fact that she respected her mother enough to ask is already better than anything I've ever done. And the fact that she delivered the news personally and gave me details says so much about her character. She's so much more mature than she should be. It doesn't help that my dad butt dialed me while Ari was adamantly talking about all the things she's done. It's obvious that the two of them care for each other like a mother and daughter should. I'm proud of her, but at the same time, I'm sad I missed it all. I'm not sure how I feel about not being told about her. Is what Cassie says is true, then I guess I understand. I didn't sense any deception in her, but she could be trained to not show any, or it could just be what she genuinely believes. I guess I understand why she wouldn't want to meet me, but she could have at least let me know. No, she couldn't have. You would have demanded to see her and would have defeated the whole purpose of her choice, my wolf tells me. Okay, so that makes sense, but would I be in the wrong to want to know about my kid when you acted how you did? Yes, so maybe I shouldn't have rejected her mother, but I don't even remember doing it. Of course you don't. It was 18 years ago. And you were hungover. Okay, doesn't being around her hurt you? And why are you sassing me? Of course it does. You stupidly destroyed the bond, and I'm sure it hurts her too. Cassie's probably the only reason she's still alive. Why would Cassie be the only reason she's still alive? Because she still has a part of us with her. She didn't lose all of us. Cassie is a part of us. That's probably why Luna wouldn't let her tell you. You would come storming about, hurting her, and if she refused to see you, you would demand your daughter and take the only thing keeping her alive. I would not have done that. You were a dick in your youth. You would have. Okay, so maybe I would have, but no buts. You had no right to her after what you did to our mate. You may have rights to her in the human world, but those rules don't apply to us. That's why we have wolf laws. Did you just cut off our link? How dare you, you butt face? Alpha, are you okay? You've been zoned out since that girl left, my beta says, snapping in my face. Yeah. Just a little stressed. I have a meeting tomorrow at the North Carolina PAC. I'll probably take my father with me if I can get him away from my mother for long enough, but if I can, you'll stay in her room and keep an eye on her, I say, getting into business mode. My father already knows about my daughter, so he would be okay to bring. And then the following day, the girl that was here will be back for a follow-up on the meeting. Sounds good, boss. I'll bring her straight up then, he says with a nod of his head. Thanks, man. Can you send my dad over? Yeah, man, I'll send him right over. Anything else? What's for dinner? I ask, feeling hungry. Tacos. Yes, I say, suddenly excited. He rolls his eyes at my behavior and goes to watch for my dad. It doesn't take long for my dad to get here, and he grumbles about how he's been away from my mother for too long as he plops down on the plush couch in my office. Father. Please stop complaining. I'll have you back to her very soon. What is it, son? He asks, laying down and getting comfortable. I can't help but roll my eyes before I respond. Ari and Cassie have set up a meeting for me to get to know them tomorrow. I wanted to know if you would go with me so that it looks like an actual meeting about PAC business. It'll also give you a chance to get to know your granddaughter. I just got back from Ari's father's house. She talks a lot about Cassie, so I know more than you do. Of that I have no doubt, he says, rolling his eyes. Do you want to go or not, old man? I say, clearly irritated. Do you realize that you messed up by screwing with Ari? He asks with a raised brow. Yes, I regret it, and not just because I didn't get to see Cassie grow up. Now answer my question. Yes, I'll go, but you have to have someone watch your mother. I want to know if she wakes up. Now, where and when is this meeting? Tomorrow at the NC Pack. We'll meet them at the border meeting spot and they'll take us to this little cafe they have for meetings. I tell him while popping my neck, the stress having returned. Well then, he says, standing up and stretching, I'm going to go see your mother and talk to her for a little bit. I'll see you bright and early. He nods to me and walks out, and I lay back and close my eyes, taking it all in. I have no idea how this is gonna go, and I'm nervous as all crap, but I'm also excited to get to know my daughter. I owe her for getting me this meeting with her mother. I have no idea how I'm going to repay her. Okay, so I know that this chapter is late and short, and I apologize. I had a long week and didn't get much writing done in the week. The next couple of weeks are going to be stupid busy, so I'm forewarning you that I may have a few late chapters. Anywho, thank you for reading. Let me know if you see any errors, and as always, have a nice day. Cassie's POV today is the day that my mother and my father really talk to each other for the first time in 17 years. I'm nervous for my mother. I have told her that if the pain of being around him is too much, that she has to tell me and we'll take a break. Right now, we're waiting for the boys to pick up Cole, and while Mom looks calm, I know she's freaking out. I hear her heartbeat spike every once in a while and her take a deep breathe, meaning she's probably thought of Cole. We don't have to wait for very long. Cole arrives and sits down across from my mother. He surprisingly brought his father along, and this made my mom smile. I hear a very subtle intake and know that Cole is just as taken with my mother's smile. Let's begin, shall we? Cole says. We shall. Do you have any questions? My mother says, looking him in the eye. She doesn't do this out of disrespect, but out of total respect. She bows her head a lot, but I know that she's excited to be able to look someone in the eyes. Why did you keep her from me? He more demands than asks, which earns him a glare from me. He acknowledges the glare with a wince, but Mom answers as if she didn't even hear a command. I tried. Many times. Every time I tried to, a piercing pain shot through me. I couldn't even move for 2 hours after. I went to the doctor twice after it happened. They witnessed the pains but could never decipher what was the cause. I had once when I was pregnant and avoided that happening again. I tried again a little after I had Cassie, and the pain was worse. I tried to ignore it, but it got too bad and I was hospitalized once. I had figured out that it happened when I tried to tell you, and it was confirmed by the Luna several times through my own dreams and many other people. The pain was coming from trying to contract you. I had to think about my child. I really did want to tell you. I tried again every couple of years until Cassie was old enough to understand, and then I let her make the decision. My mom explains. She looks down, she mentions the pains. She told me a couple of years back when I woke up from a nightmare and had felt the pains again. Cassie, he says to get my attention, why did you not want to know me? Don't try to use the alpha tone on me. If you want me to answer your question, you ask it in a question format. I say with a bit of growl in my voice. Nice. I hear Mom's snort in my head. I can feel the pride from her, Grandpa, and Axe, though I'm not sure if the others noticed Axe's reaction. Will you please tell me why you didn't want me to know? He asks after a moment of silence. I can feel pride coming off him at the fact that I'm not a submissive. You hurt my mother. By the time I was old enough to decide, I was also old enough to understand the mate bond and consequences of rejection. I knew that being around you would negatively affect my mother, so I didn't want you near her. She told me that you didn't know too much about her, and I thought it would be unreasonable to reject someone before you knew them. I figured if you didn't want my mom, why would you want me? I'm very much like her. There were many reasons for not wanting you around when I was younger. I say, you rejected me before you knew me, he says with a slight grin tugging at his lips. I was 6, what's your excuse? I say. This earns me a high five from Grandpa, a snort from Axe, and smile from Mom. I was stupid. Was, I say with raised brows, feigning shock. Another high five and smile, though this time Axe begins to chuckle silently. I can feel the frustration radiating from Cole. Cole, my mother says, and his head snaps towards hers. Do you have any more questions? Do you have any baby pictures? He asks. Mom smiles and pulls out a small box from her purse. Cassie's POV, I borrowed a car to get to the underground bar where the fight would take place, and made it there with an hour to spare. This gave me plenty of time to warm up and change into my usual attire. The aforementioned attire consists of a sports bra and shorts with loose hooded tank top on top of it, and a simple pair of purple sneakers. My trainer had basically demanded I wear this anytime I had a fight. I personally didn't care, and my only input on it was that my hair had to be in a tight ponytail. I wasn't told much about my challenger besides their name, and that was when I arrived, so I couldn't make a plan. This is the usual for these kinds of things and absolutely sucks. I've always been the kind of person that needs a plan, but I'm too far invested into this thing to stop now. My opponent's name is White Tiger, which I think is ridiculous, but whatever, man. My name is just C. I don't get the whole reason for using an animal in your name. Warm-ups don't take long, and my coach took a special trip out here to be here for this fight, even though it's not all that necessary. Before long, I'm called out onto the stage. White Tiger has already been called out and is standing across the ring from me. She's a 5'9" girl that is super beefy and obviously has come this far from pure strength. I'm smaller, so I can probably move a little faster than her. I haven't seen her fight, so I can't make an informed decision on her quick thinking. The ref talks for a moment and explains the rules, which are basically 1, no hidden weapons, and 2, avoid death, and we're told to begin. She charges at me and bends at the waist to throw me over her shoulder. I sidestep her, and she runs into the ropes before turning around. She looks at me with a little more rage in her eyes, so she has a quick temper. She charges towards me again, and this time I step to the side and stick my arm out to clothesline her. It works, but she grabs me on her way down, and I do feel my shoulder pop. I'm sure it was audible throughout the room. I pop my shoulder and stand up and see her still down but very close to getting up. I quickly grab her arm and pull her up before ramming my head into hers. While this slightly disorients me, it does a lot more damage to her than me, seeing as how she was already messed up from the fall. While she's trying to get settled again, I send a hard punch to her gut that has her doubling over and gasping for air. I give her a moment to catch her breath, and she stands up fully again. Her eyes are still dilating, meaning she's still not quite right after the blows to the head and lack of oxygen in her lungs, but she attempts to attack anyway. She tries to punch me and almost hits me square in the jaw, but I'm able to dodge just in time so that it just barely nicks my jaw. I'll have a slight bruise there for a little bit, but it'll go away before I go home. I grab her hand before it goes too far past my head and bend it in a way that will disable her, but not break the bone. She sucks in air through her teeth and tries to use her non-dominant hand to throw a punch, and because she's not well practiced with that hand, the punch is quite sloppy and easy to block. I do a roundhouse kick and land it on her head. This knocks her out and ends the match. The ref comes in to check on her, and I also check her pulse and the other injuries as well as her pupils to make sure she doesn't have a concussion. After making sure my opponent isn't too horribly damaged, I change and head home. The next morning, I wake up earlier than usual and go for a run. My shoulder hurts, and I feel a slight pain in my jaw, but I'll survive. After my jog through the woods, I joined everyone for breakfast, and then my mother and I went into town. My mother stayed with the Beta and Gamma, and I walked to the Cole's office where our personal meeting would be held. I walk up to the Beta of Cole's pack, and he immediately takes me up to Cole's office. He drops me off the door, and I knock and am immediately told to come in. Cassie's POV guy, I miss Axe. He had pack business and had to stay behind today, so after I finished my meeting with Cole and came back to the pack house, the first thing I did was go to his office. I knocked and he called for me to enter, and I saw he was sat with his pack doctor talking about a few members who would need care after the training they had today. Just who I needed to speak to. Cassie, this is our pack doctor, Ramiro. Ramiro, this is Cassie. She'll be training the pack members for the rest of her stay. Cassie, I wasn't expecting you back so soon. What is it I can help you with? He says, maintaining professionalism. It did not go unnoticed that he said our pack, but to the good doctor, it probably sounded like he was talking about the pack as a whole or maybe talking about himself and the doctor. My meeting finished earlier than expected, and I wanted to ask you when you would like me to start training. I can come back later if you would like. I say monotonous, which is my business voice. Oh no, we're just about finished. So Alpha, I'll need medical information for all the teenagers that are training so that if any of them come in injured, I know what to give them and what not. The best way to go about that would be to have every parent fill out a form containing allergies and things to be aware of and to turn it into you before they can begin training. Doc says, looking at the alpha, "That sounds wonderful. Send a mind link to everyone. I want updated files on everyone, young and old. When was the last time we had med file updates?" Axe asks. 2 years ago. "Well then hop to it, man." Axe exclaims dramatically. Doc nods and walks out. We wait in silence for a minute and a half before he stands up and walks over to me. I open my arms for a hug and A walks over, giving me one without second thought. He pulls back and looks at me and asks me if he can kiss me. "Of course. You always have my permission," I say, and he leans forward to give me the kiss. His lips are soft and I'm already addicted to him. He pulls back too soon for me but is already breathless. I take a deep breath and look into the eyes I've already fallen in love with. "You are the most beautiful being I have ever laid eyes on," he says, his eyes showing awe. "And you the most handsome," I say, showing him the same awe. "Guy, I missed you last night. I didn't sleep all that well. I ended up staying up until I heard you come in. I wanted to go check on you, but I didn't want to appear creepy and figured you would be tired," he says, looking down, almost in shame. "You should have come. I would have loved to see you. I was sad that I missed our nightly conversation. I've gotten so used to seeing you that it was odd to try to sleep without it," I say, and sit down. "Can I ask what you had to do?" he says, and sits next to me on the couch he has in his office. "I shouldn't tell you, but I would prefer you knew. I'm an underground fighter and I had a match last night. I've been in it for a long while and at this point there's no way for me to get out. It would be stupid hard to get out unless I had a valid reason," I say with a shrug and lean onto his arm, which he wraps around me. "What would they count as a valid reason?" he asks with a raised brow. "Pregnancy, marriage, or serious injury?" I say, listing them by common occurrence. "I love how you said pregnancy then marriage," he says with a chuckle. "It's more common for an underground lady to get pregnant before they get married because more prefer to entertain themselves after a fight, and often fighters will marry each other and neither of them will give up fighting. Oftentimes serious injury will only stop them briefly until they recover and then they're back to fighting," I say, explaining the answers. "Well then," he says with raised brows and a shrug. "Would you ever want kids?" "Yes, many. I've always wanted a sibling, but my mom didn't want a second chance mate, so there was no way I would be able to have one. I don't want my kids to feel lonely growing up," I say, thinking back to my childhood and how lonely it was with very few children in the pack at that time. We were switching alphas, and now that we have settled, there are many children, but at the time the packs was quite lonely for a child my age. "How many kids would you want?" he asks. 7, I say, laughing and completely joking. "Oh, please no, that's overkill," he says, his eyes swallowing his head at the thought of that many kids. Honestly, the thought isn't appealing because giving birth 7 times doesn't sound fun. Yeah, I was joking. I wouldn't be able to withstand giving birth that many times, I say, shaking my head. "What genders would you want?" he says as he begins to run his fingers through my hair. 3 boys and a girl. The boys would be protective of the girl and the girl would be able to defend herself because her brothers wouldn't let her not know how. And if something were to happen to us, then we wouldn't have to worry about her being alone. That was always my mom's big concern. She made sure that if anything did happen to her, I'd go to my father. She even had a letter written out and told me where it was so I could grab it before I was sent away. She was prepared for every instance. Your grandfather almost tore up the letter when she showed him where it was. He said that no good piece o' waste wasn't gonna get his little DP. No way, no how, I say with a chuckle, recalling how insistent the old man was about my being his princess and no one was gonna take me away from him. Yep, that sounds like the old man, he says and releases a yawn as I lean more into him. You know, we could take a short nap. If you tell your mom that you made it back, I already had. And I tell him the boys thought I'm in a meeting, we could probably get away with a 30 or so minute nap. He says, looking down at me, his eyes showing just how tired he was. And so we did just that. Just relaxing in the feel of being in each other's arms. Thank you so much for reading. This week has been so weird. I have been a day and a half ahead all week, which is really trippy, so if you see any errors, let me know. And as always, have a nice day. Cassie's POV training starts today. I get up very early, ready to get this thing started after having been inactive for much too long. I throw on a tank top and pair of men's basketball shorts because we won't be going extreme today and head out to the training field. When I get out there, no one else is, which is not unexpected as it's 3 in the morning. I do my warm-ups, which consist of running 2 miles, doing 150 push-ups, and in 150 pull-ups before taking a break to drink some water and wait for the others. At promptly 5 a.m., everyone who will be training today arrives. Some of the older girl, who are about 16, are in leggings that are almost see-through and sports bras that are too tight. The boys who are the same age or a year older are all looking at the girls, some with disgust and some with lust. Everyone quickly shifts their eyes to the field where they see me, and a chatter starts among them. I thought the greatest warrior their pack had was gonna be here. Where is he? And she's hot are just a few of the phrases I catch flittering through the group. Axe must have caught the last one too, because he bristles a little at the comment and then calls for silence. This is the top warrior of the Risen Moon Pack of Oregon. Her name is Cassie Mora, and you will treat her with the utmost respect. You will follow her instructions as if she were the moon goddess herself. If I find out that any of you disrespected her, you will face punishment. She is a guest, and we want to make a good impression, he says, raising his brows at everybody. He nods to me and then walks off. For starters, if you are wearing something that is too tight or see-through, you will go change in this instant. We will not proceed without you, but you will miss the introductions. I'm okay with leggings and sports bras to work out in, but I want them properly sized or covered with a t-shirt. I say, raising my voice to be heard throughout the crowd. A large group of girls and a few guys go to change, and I have everyone else sit down on the grass. The group I have today gets 11-17 and is co-ed. This means that I'll have to split them up into groups. Before we begin on our training, I'm giving you the option to ask me questions, because I know that trust isn't something given off the bat. I want to earn your respect, so you can ask me any question while we wait for your peers. I will warn you, though, I may give you a short answer, I say, and almost immediately, hands go up all around the group. I choose one of the younger girls to go first. How old are you? The 11-year-old girl in pigtails asks. I am 17. I turn 18 in a month and a half, I say, and point to one of the older boys. Have you found your mate? The boy asks, waggling his eyebrows as if to insinuate that he could be my mate. Yes, I say, and point to the next kid, not missing the look of disappointment on the previous boy's face. Why haven't you? He pauses for a moment and looks to the group of youngers before hesitantly continuing. Finish the process. I'm rather busy at the moment, and I want to be able to give him my full attention. Hopefully things will smooth out soon and I will be able to. I explain and nod to a young boy who has hand up for a while. Why did you make them go change? He asks, urging his head like a confused puppy. The things they were wearing are not fit for what we're going to be doing today, and it would inconvenient for them. It's better that they go change, I say, and notice the last group of girls walking out, dressed much more sensible. All right, let's hop to it, guys. First things first, 10 laps around the field. If you feel like it's hard to breathe, you can sit down and get some water. I'll have the beta bring out a jug and take a 2-minute breather and then get back to it. Go! And so it begins. Tilda, after I get through the youngers, I go on to the more experienced people, and our session is a little shorter than the others. My mom gets back in time to see the last session of the day, and after I finish, we all go out to dinner, because Cassandra doesn't want to cook. Luckily, the place wasn't very fancy, because I refuse to wear a dress. Later that night, I stay with my mother in her room, and we talk about what she learned about her father and brother today. She's very excited about everything and getting to meet the real them, but halfway through our conversation, she stops and takes a shaky breathe. I love you, you know that, she says, pausing to intake another breathe before continuing. This isn't a physical hurt. I was prepared to be in physical pain being around him, but all I felt was content. It was just the 3 of us, and I couldn't feel anything but happiness at the fact that we were a family. And now that I'm away from him, all I feel is an emotional pain. I can't understand why. I accepted his rejection, but it's as if it never happened at all. Cassie, I don't understand, she says and wraps her arms around me. She hides her face in the crook of my neck and sobs. All I can do is wrap my arms around her and let her cry. My mother hates not knowing, especially when it's about our lives. I'm also confused, but all I can think to do is look to the Luna for wisdom. As my mother falls asleep in my arms, I look towards the moon and send my thoughts to the goddess. Give me guidance to help my mother. I think and close my eyes, laying my mother down on her bed. I walk to the living room and see my mate looking at the gas fireplace that is going for some reason. He looks deep in thought and has a glass of iced tea in his hand. He hasn't shaved in a couple of days, and he has a good scruff going on, which I absolutely love. I walk over and sit down beside him, laying my head on his shoulder. He leans his cheek on my head and plants a kiss on the top it, never breaking his concentration. How soon do you think it will be before we can tell people? He asks, rubbing his scruff along my head. Soon, I hope. I want to be able to kiss you in front of people. I think most of the issues are resolved, except for a slight issue between my mother and father. But that is going to heavily rely on Luna. I say, cuddling up next to him a little more. Speaking of kissing, he says, turning to me so that he can see my face. May I? Of course, I say, and our lips meet without second thought. And that was the perfect way to spend the night. Laughing and being with my mate. Thank you guys so much for reading. I'm terribly sorry that this chapter is late. I had a very emotional week, and that caused a writer's block and a lack of motivation. I will try to make it up by uploading again tomorrow, but I make no promises other than you will get another upload before the end of the week. If you see any errors, let me know, and as always, have a nice day. Cassie's POV: 1 minute I was falling asleep on my mate, and the next I was in a grassy field with a gorgeous night sky above me. While it was absolutely magnificent, the voice that presented itself was much more heavenly. Hello, child, the voice says, sounding as if it was coming from surround sound system. Hello, Luna, is it? I ask the voice and watch as a beautiful woman appears from behind a tree. You are a very bright child. Most are very confused about their whereabouts and who I am, she says, her voice no longer coming from all around me. I must say, I didn't think you would actually operate in a grassy field. You seem more like a boardroom type of woman. I say, taking in the goddess of the moon. She is very beautiful and isn't wearing a dress like most say she was when she spoke to them. She's wearing jeans and a One Republic shirt that she's cut the sleeves off of, and her feet are bare. Most people like the field. They say it's calming, but I didn't make you like most people, she says, and in a blink, we're in a boardroom much like the one that all the trainers meet in at the PAC in Oregon. Better. Much. Now what do we have to discuss? I ask now that I'm in my element. I need you to go to your grandfather's house tomorrow and ask to see all the baby pictures and her birth certificate. You'll understand when you see it. After that, go to your father and you'll know what about at that point, she says. I nod and look at her to continue. Wow, I forgot how accepting you are. People usually get pissed at how cryptic I am. Well, it's not like you can just tell people the future. People would abuse that privilege or do something to try and change it. It's funny how people don't realize that the future is only secured by the actions they take. I say, rolling my eyes. Right, you get it. I should have you over more often, she says, laying her head back in her chair and putting her feet on the desk. I should have you over more often. Oh, that reminds me. Something is going to happen and it will cause some stress. It will be a good thing, but there will be a fight. I can't say much, she says, looking frustrated. I nod and she smiles at me before giving me a final thought. The thought is simply don't be afraid to love him, and then I'm fading. Tilda, I wake up on the couch with my head in Axe's lap and whiskey giving the two of us a gentle smile. I was gonna wake you two up. I really was. I just wanted to enjoy the peace for a moment. You two deserve it. It's okay. I thank you for letting him sleep. Sleep is going to be little with a war that is raging. I wish I could say more, I say and walk up to him. I hug him and kiss his cheek, saying good night, and do the same to my mate before going upstairs. I lay down, knowing only slightly what tomorrow has in store. When I awake the next morning, it's the usual routine and then shower, dress, and breakfast. We're all gathered around the dining table and the plans for the day were asked. Everyone was giving out their plans, and my mother's idea was to go look around the town because she hadn't had much time to. I thought maybe you and I could go look through old baby pictures of you. You brought some of mine and I want to see yours. And besides, you've been telling me that you need to get a hold of your birth certificate for a while now. I say to my mother, who looks at me kind of shocked. Cole's POV, I don't know how to feel about the information presented to me. I have a second chance at my mate because of a technicality. I wasn't lying when I told Cassie that I wanted an actual chance to be a family. I want a chance to have and to hold her mom. I want a chance to be a father. I missed so much because of my party animal ways, and I regret them so much. I hope Cassie is right and that her mother can forgive me. I know the trust won't be earned back immediately, but I would like a chance. Luna, please give me guidance and strength. I want an actual chance to fix my mistake and be the man you want me to be. I know I don't deserve it, but you've been proven to be forgiving goddess. I just hope that I may please you. I quickly pray and return to the work set before me. Hey, bossman, can I ask a question? My beta says, walking in and sitting down. Was that not a question just then? I sarcastically respond. Ha ha ha. He says, rolling his eyes before he continues. Who is the girl that keeps coming and going? I sigh and think for a moment before responding. I trust you not to tell until I allow you to so. Her name is Cassie Mora. She's my daughter. You have a daughter? He asks with wide eyes. Yes, her mother is my mate, and I rejected her 18 years ago while I was on my power high. Her mother is Ari Mora. They're visiting her brother and father, and Ari is allowing me a chance to know my daughter. Why did you put quotes around rejected? That's another thing. They were looking at her birth certificate and found out that she's not actually Marcus' daughter. Her legal last name isn't Mora, and therefore my rejection may not have been real. That's some heavy stuff, boss. What would you do if the rejection didn't hold? That's my current dilemma. I'm awaiting peace from the goddess. I want so badly for the rejection to have failed so I can have a chance at being a family, but at the same time nervous that it did hold and I'll never have a chance because of a stupid mistake I made. I explain, throwing my head back against the seat. I'll tell you what, the Luna is known to come in dreams, so why don't you go rest? I'll tell the pack you aren't well at the moment and you can try to get a hold of your thoughts. You can't expect peace when you're stressed out of your mind, he says, standing and walking over to the desk. That sounds good, man. I'll take you up on that. I say, standing and giving him a bro hug him before walking to my room. I lay down on the bed, fully clothed, and close my eyes. It takes no time before I'm asleep. When I wake up, I'm on a flowery hill and I know I'm in a dream. I suddenly hear a voice coming from every direction and know where all at once. Child. The heavenly voice says, I have heard your prayers and have come to answer them. I immediately drop to my knees and bow my head. Luna, it's an honor to be in your presence. I ask only for your guidance. My child, my guidance is the reason I have brought you forth. I have seen your heart and you character development, and I have come to give you the news. You have grown, and I have granted you an opportunity to reclaim your happiness. The only thing stopping you is Ari. I haven't had a moment to speak with her just yet, but you two will need to meet in your own time and talk like the adults I know you are. But if my plan is to go right, you two will need to behave and think like the adults I know you are. Of course, I will do my best to respect your wishes, Luna, I say, never having raised my head. I hope so, child. Now awake. I'm suddenly sitting up in bed and look over to my clock to see that it is now 4 p.m. I sincerely hope we can work this out. Tilda Ari's POV after story time and spending a good 15 minutes crying. We spend the rest of the afternoon going through pictures that lead up until my 17th birthday. After that, Stella said we were too old and didn't need pictures anymore. She had never been loving to me, but she was never overly aggressive. I could tell she didn't like me, but I never knew why. Even after hearing the story, I have no clue as to why she hated me. You'd think she'd want to hold on to the only part she had left of her mate. I expected the ride back to Axe's pack to be silent, but I was wrong. The events that took place must have slowed down the world because the conversation took hours and I was left with a killer headache. Mom, I have a theory. And what is that theory, my love? That you've been feeling the effects of the mate bond because it was never truly broken, she says, and I take a moment to process. Elaborate. I say with a bit of command in my voice. I hate to use it, but at the moment I seem to have lost a bit of control to my wolf. I was still angry with myself for using it on my daughter, but she didn't seem to care about my tone. I suspect that because he didn't use your official last name, the mate bond was never truly broken. That you're still feeling its effects because it's still there. When you accepted his rejection, the Luna gave you a break from the bond, but did not break the bond itself. She pauses to take a deep breath. I also believe that you and Cole could form the bond anew if you wanted to. After that, I was silent and got lost in thought. That's what made the car ride seem like it took forever. My thoughts decided to run wild, and that's never a good thing. I couldn't help but think that there was a chance to be a real family, to watch our daughter grow up and meet her mate and to help raise our grandchildren, to grow old together, as slowly as it may be. Was there a chance at happiness for us? These are the thoughts that put me to sleep, and the following dream is one that I haven't had in almost 18 years. I awoke in a grassy meadow with the heavenly sky above me and knew that I was in the realm of the goddess. Child, you fret too much. I have given you a plan, and it was almost ruined once. Don't let it happen again. I gave you a second chance using a small technicality. I want you two together, but you have to try to make it work. He's finally grown into the man I wanted him to be. Accept him and grow with him, Luna said, never once coming into my view. After her short speech, I was sent back to my bed. My sudden awakening was short-lived as I was exhausted from the day before, and before I could think too much on what the Luna said, I was back asleep for some actual rest. Heyo. I know this chapter is late, but I had a very busy week, and I have to prep for school to start soon. This means that the chapters are going to be late more often. I apologize in advance. Anywho, thank you for reading. Let me know of any mistakes, and, as always, have a nice day. Cassie's POV. I woke up this morning and was about to start my normal routine, but was stopped by my mother. She may love to exercise, but she refuses to be up this early, so I know something isn't quite right. Baby, my mother whispers as to not awaken our hosts. Does your father know of your hypothesis? Yes, I told him while I was on my walk. I wanted to give him a chance to think about it too, and that moment felt right. Okay, I trust you. You've never done anything to so much as fracture my trust, much less break it. I need to speak to your father, and I would like for you to be there. I would love to, but I have training today. We're still trying to get a solid schedule, but I could probably, she cuts me off, which she never does. No, it's okay. I just need to go talk to your father about something, but you're gonna be busy, and you have prior engagements, so it's not something I'm gonna ask you to skip. I can talk to your father by myself. It would probably be better. Are you sure, Mom? I can take the day off. I'm not scared to ask for it. Baby, I'm sure I can handle that man. You've talked to him most recently, and I would like to know if he is going to be receptive. Yes. He's already told me that if he had the chance to take back his rejection, he would in less than a heartbeat. He hates himself for everything he's done for you and wishes he could change it. He was more than receptive to the idea. Well, at least I know it won't be a bust. You stay here and take care of your business, and I'll talk to your father about everything. I hope this works out. I want us to be a family. I know, Mom. I want you to be happy, and if this is what will make that happen, then it's what I want. Baby, you're gonna find your mate soon. You should be focused on your happiness, not mine. Besides, if your father and I get back together, then we'll have to move, and you're gonna be old enough to choose where you live soon enough. You need to focus on yourself, my love. Mom, we'll worry about that when the time comes. You go get ready to meet Cole, and I'll get ready for training. Let me know how it goes. I say and kiss her on the head. She walks over to her room and goes inside, and I head out to do my run. I come back in time for breakfast, as Mom is telling everyone her plan for the day, but instead of sitting down and eating with them, just grab an apple. I don't want to overeat before working out a lot and making myself sick, and that's what my day consisted of. I barely ate, which I admit was unhealthy, and I trained for more than half the day. When I was finally done training, I was so tired that I could hardly move. I showered and went to my room to file my report that we have to do, when I realized that I don't have any of the files. I begrudgingly stand and walk to Axe's office to get the paperwork. When I get to his office, I knock on his door and hear a slight come in. I walk in and go to speak, but he looks up and pats his lap while leaning back in his chair. I trudge my way over, slowly sit down in his lap, and lean against his chest. He kisses my forehead, and my wolf starts to purr. What's wrong, love? He asks in a gentle voice that has me almost falling asleep. I'm tired and still have paperwork to do, and I have to eat so I don't pass out, and I'm sore because I don't think you understand how fast these kids learn, so I've had to increase them repeatedly today, and oh my gosh, that feels good. I interrupt myself to say as my wonderful mate starts massaging my shoulders. How about you sit in here and do the paperwork, and I will have Grandpa bring us some food and give an excuse. He says, giving me kisses on the head here and there. Some time with the most wonderful man in the world, food, and a break. Sounds magnificent, I say, kissing him on the nose. May I? He says and leans toward me. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. I say, meeting him halfway in a gentle kiss that sends butterflies fluttering through my stomach. I get off his lap and sit in the chair across from him that I pulled up to the desk, and he passed me the files that I initially came in here for. We sit quietly and work until Whiskey brings in 2 plates of food, and then the only noise is forks hitting plates. After we finish eating, Whiskey came and took our plates away, and we finished our work quickly and snuggled for about an hour. As we were falling asleep, we decided it would be best to sleep in our own rooms. Luckily, we won't have to do that for much longer, and I'm glad because we sleep better snuggled together by design of the Luna. I reluctantly made my way back to the room I had been assigned and was about to lay down when my mom walked in and plopped down on my bed. She released a dreamy sigh, and I plopped down next to her so we can have a talk about how it went. He's changed so much. I can tell that the bond was never really broken. I feel how much my wolf and his are pushing to be together, and I can feel a very strong string-like thing pulling us together. She starts to ramble before stopping herself. Anything else? I ask because I know she's not saying something. It hurts to be away from him right now. I'm not sure about how long I can stay away from him. I know that soon I'll have to tell Liam and Lily that I'm transferring to here, and I would go with you to take you back to Risen Moon and everything. Mom, if you move, I am too. Besides, I have something here that's making me really want to stay. Oh, will you tell me? She asks, sitting up and leaning towards me. In due time. Right now you have something to worry about, and when that's closer to settled, I'll tell everyone. I say, and I know she understands. Well, I'm excited. I hope that whatever it is keeps you happy. She dazes and kisses my forehead. Trust me, Mom, it does. I say with a smile as she walks out the door and to her room. I finally lay down for the night with a smile on my face and exhaustion set into my bones. It was a good day. The ones where you can hardly move from exercise always are. Okay, so I disagree with that last line, but it's accurate to the character, which is why it's there. I am so sorry that this took me forever to upload. I actually just finished writing it. I have come up with a new way of writing that'll get you the chapters faster and be better for everyone in the long run. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will have the next chapter up as soon as possible, and I hope you have a nice day. Ari's POV. I was a little more nervous than I would have been had Cassie been here, but I was still sure that I could handle this. It was just Cole. And sure, he's changed, but it's been for the better, so why am I worried? I'm never nervous, so why is right now any different? Okay, so maybe I do get a little nervous, and maybe I tend to ramble when I am, but a lot of people ramble, and being nervous isn't anything new. Okay, Ari, focus. I take a deep breath and halt my inner monologue before it goes any further. I hold my head high and make my way to my mate's office, ready to take on the world, or at least this situation. I get to his office, and the beta waves me on through to his office. When I get there, I knock on the door. It takes less than a moment for him to holler for me to come in. I walk in and take a deep breath as we look each other over. It's a good thing that I took that deep breath, because one look was all it took for my breath to be stolen. She was right. The bond never fully broke, he says, trying to regain the breath he too lost. Yeah, she's a good egg. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know what I would do or be without her, so for her, I thank you. I say, nodding my thanks to him. Come, sit, he says, motioning to the chair across from him. I do, and we sit for a moment in silence. Gah, why are we so awkward? We're supposed to be in love, and we can't even have a normal conversation. Yeah, it's like we're strangers or something. I say with sarcasm dripping from my voice. All right, there's no need for the sass. He rolls his eyes. But we really are strangers. The only thing we know about each other is what we recently learned and the fact that we share a daughter. I understand that you think that we would be head over heels in love and all that jazz, but that's not how that works. I know. How is she? Our daughter, that is. She had training to teach or she would be here. I had to fight her for that one, but the mom card with a little bit of the reputation card will get her to listen. She tried to cancel her training is what I'm trying to say. I love her, but honestly, she can be a pain. That makes sense. You've raised her to be amazing. I didn't do a lot. She was so independent that I tried to raise her and she basically raised herself. I worked a lot and I would get people to watch her, but she went about like they weren't there. She made herself food at the age of 3 if I wasn't home. If she wanted something, she would find a way to get it. She was making her own food at 3. As in 3 years old. Why would she do that if she had help? She never wanted help. They tried to help and she would dismiss them like they were flies. She tried to be polite about it though, so I give her that. So she was always independent. Very. The Luna above gave me a wonderful baby. She hardly ever cried and she was super smart. I think the only issue was she talked to strangers, but that always turned out to be a good thing. I couldn't ask for a better child. I can't help but smile as I think about my Cassie. I'm glad you didn't tell me about her. I had a lot of growing up to do and you needed her more than I did. I wouldn't have been able to take care of her like she would have deserved, and it would have screwed us both up. You needed her way more than I did. The Luna knows what she's doing. Yeah, I don't regret not telling you. I needed her and in all honesty still do need her. I disagree. I don't think you need her. I think you try to hold on to her because you did for so long. I hope you'll hold on to me one day, but for now I'll settle for holding on to you. He says, crouching in front of me and cupping my jaw. What about when you leave? I can't help but ask as my eyes start to water at the thought. I refuse to leave you again. I just got you back, and if I'm honest, the last 18 years without you have been like living in hell. I never got the chance to properly love you, and I'm not going to lose that chance now. I may not know you like I should, but I want to. I may to love you right now, but I'm so close. I hope that one day you'll fall in love with me, because this time I'll be there to catch you. He says, and I see adoration shining through his eyes. That's just the bond talking. I can't help but be insecure. I was rejected for my whole life by everyone but my daughter and my pack. That's a lot of time to think bad about yourself. No, I swear it's not. The bond is just there to show us what we'd never see by ourselves, and you know it. He says, booping me on the nose. I look into his eyes and see no trace of lie in them. I know that the bond isn't there to force us together, and I thought about it a little more before declaring something that could never be taken back. If you are willing, so am I. His smile is blinding, and I can't help but give him my own watery smile. If you are willing, so am I. I am more than willing. He says, and for the first time in 18 years, I kiss my soulmate. I know. I'm horrible and it's short, and I took forever to get it to you. I'm sorry. I tried to write sooner, but I got really bad writer's block and had no free time for a while. I hope to back into writing again, but I gave up on making promises when it comes to my writing. I will have some time to write this weekend, but I don't know if I'll have a whole chapter. Anywho, if you see any mistakes, comment and have a nice day. Axe's POV. I'm excited to be able to hold my mate in public. Don't get me wrong, I love our private moments, but I would rather have her eye on my arms at all times and not just stolen moments in my office. I'm ready to show the pack that they have a Luna and watch her take the role. She already walks the walk, and I'm more than ready for her to talk the talk. I'm ready to start a family and build a life. I'm ready to hold her at night in our own bed and not have to worry about idiot teenagers hitting on her. I want to say the words that make her mine. I want to see her walking down the aisle, though I'm not sure she would actually wear a dress. I wonder if Grandpa Whiskey would help me find a ring. I don't want either of my parents or siblings clued in. Would she want me to ask her father's permission? Would she want him to walk her down the aisle? Would she even want a big wedding, or would she just want to go down the courthouse? We haven't even been on a proper date, and I'm already thinking of the wedding. Would she care about that? I know I'm already in love, and it has nothing to do with the bond and everything to do with the women I'm tied to. I couldn't have gotten a better mate. I thank the Luna above every day for giving me the best. I have no idea what I did to earn her. I'm jolted out of my thoughts by Whiskey dropping a large on my desk. Finally, boy, you've been out of it for about 20 minutes. Your boys are trying to talk to you, and I've also got some news, so focus. Whisk basically yells in my ear. Thinking about your mate, boss. Are you still seeing her eyes at night? My beta, James, asks. Whiskey looks at me as it asking, do they know? Yeah, you can guess why it's hard to focus when all you see are her eyes. Yeah, I can imagine. So what are we talking about? Just giving you the reports for the last couple of days. Nothing super exciting except for some of the border guides fighting. There were a couple of Rouges that tried to attack while they were, and that snapped them out of it. The Rouges didn't last long. My Gamma, Riley said. When did that happen? I ask, not remembering. 2 hours ago. We just got word of it like 20 minutes ago. Riley says with a shrug. All right, anything else? I ask, and they says no and dismiss themselves. All right, what's up, Whiskey? We're gonna have to tell them soon. It's coming up on a month since you told them about it. They'll know soon enough. I'm confident that her business won't take too much longer. And if it does, that's something I'll have to talk to her about. Is that what you came to talk about? No, we have a business meeting next month and a ball in 2 weeks that they are asking every alpha and their mate to attend. Past and present, all of us will be attending. I was hoping to have a new alpha female by then and maybe an heir on the way. Grandpa, we're waiting till after we're married, and we have to wait till she's 18 before even that. So Yauhave discussed children? Yes, it was a recent discussion. And how many do you plan? 7. I reference her earlier joke. I don't think we'd be able to handle 7 kids. Well, good luck with that. I hope you're joking. I can see you two with 1 for 2. Do you have preferred genders? Healthy. I would be fine with either gender, I just want healthy. Though I'll love them no matter what. You always were a smart kid. I can understand. Whiskey said with a small smile as there was a knock on the door. Entro, I say to the person behind the door. It opens and the most beautiful woman I've ever met walks in. Hello, Cassie. Hello, Whiskey. Did I interrupt? She asks, looking between the two of us. Never, I was just about to leave to talk to the chefs about dinner. I must go do that now. Whiskey said and walked out the door, closing it behind himself. What's up, sweet pea? I ask her as she flops down in the seat across from me. This is the most informal I have ever seen her. I'm so tired. But some good news, we won't have to keep us a secret for too much longer. Everything is falling into place, and as soon as it lands, we can be outed. She says from her slouched position. I can't help the goofy smile that spreads across my face as I get up and walk over to her, leaning over her and asking for permission to kiss her. She says yes, and I smother her face in little kisses. I'm so excited. When do you think it'll be? I'm hoping less than a week, but I need to get all the details straight before I can give you a date. Awa, I was really hoping for one, I say with a playful pout. Soon, love. She says with a smile and asks me for permission for a kiss. I say yes, of course, and we kiss before having to break apart. Is there anything you needed, or did you just come bearing the good news? I asks, returning to my chair. I just came to share this joyous occasion with you. I must now return to my room and prepare dinner. Of course, my love, I wish you the best of nights. I shall see you at the evening meal. Until then, I shall long to see thy face. She said with the most gentle smile. Hello. Okay, so I know I'm a piece of crap for taking so long to upload, but I hoped you liked the change in perspective. The story will be coming to an end soon, and then there will be major editing. It has already been decided that there will be a sequel, but I won't upload the first chapter of the sequel until I'm done with the sequel because I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Cassie's POV, I'm so glad that everything is finally working out. I can't wait to see my mom happy with her mate, though. I'm not sure if I'll be able to call him Dad just yet. Honestly, it's been weird living somewhere other than Oregon, and it doesn't quite feel like home yet. Despite the fact that my mate is here, I've spent my whole life in a different environment, and it's going to be a while before I grow used to the new place. It's quite beautiful, and thanks to my wolf genes, not too warm, but I haven't seen enough of the surrounding area yet. I heard there's lots of deer, so that will be good for hunting, but other than that, I made the mistake of not doing enough research about the environment. Mom and Cole are currently out on a secret date, not wanting to reveal to the packs yet about their mating, but I'm training some of the teenage pack members at Axe's pack. They learned to behave around me, and they're taking their training very seriously, so I'm quite proud. I haven't seen any bullying, which is something I have made very clear that I will not tolerate. I saw someone almost start to bully, but I raised a brow, and that was the end of that. Training is just about over, and I'm ready to hear about my mom's date. I release the teens for the day, and they all go to the shower, a few staying to help me clean up the training field. When we finally get done, I go to take a shower and then to do my paperwork for today, which is probably the worst part of the job. I'm mostly used to it because I had to do the paperwork back home, but that doesn't make it easier. I'm so ready for food and a nap, but I know I have to stay up. I've taken too many naps lately, and I need to stop before I ruin my sleep schedule. I sit down in my room and pull out the paperwork I need to do for the training and get to work on it. I'm not working for very long when my mom walks in and jumps onto my bed. She's very smiley, and it's kinda weird for me because she was never smiled this much when I was growing up. "Hey, Mom, that good?" I ask her while smiling down at her. "Yes, I'm really happy." We started to plan out mate ceremony, and he's gonna introduce me to the pack as their female alpha in 2 days. We don't want to have to wait too long, so the ceremony will be in 3 days and then the alpha-female ceremony 2 days after that. So when is the human wedding? I ask, adjusting my reading classes. We haven't discussed it yet. We got most of the details for the other 3 things done today, but that's something that we'll have to discuss tomorrow. Sounds good. I have a meeting with Axe tomorrow, and you should probably call Liam and Lily and have them prepare our stuff. I don't think that we will be able to go out there to get it. You know how much mates hate being away from each other. I highly doubt he can get away from alpha duties for long enough to go with us to pack up. He may be able to because we get a honeymoon. I think he'd like to see Oregon, but again, we'll have to discuss that tomorrow. Sounds good. I just finished the last of the paperwork. Would you like to go hang out in the living room with the ladies? Yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to go change first. I smell like fish. I'll see you down there. I have to drop this off with Axe first, so I'll see you down there. I gather the paperwork together and walk down to his office, not bothering to change from my Spanx and tank top. They're both pretty modest, so I wasn't worried. I knocked on his office door, and it only takes a minute to answer. I walk in, and he's sitting at his desk with his own reading glasses on, and he barely looks up at me before looking back down. He then does a double take when he sees that it's me. "Hey, babe, how are you doing?" He asks and drops everything that he's doing. Good. I just came to drop off the paperwork for the day and tell you that we can reveal the fact that we are mates. Really? He asks with an overwhelming amount of hope in his eyes. Yep, my mom and dad are going to announce that she is the alpha female in 2 days. In 3 days, they'll have their mate ceremony, and then the alpha ceremony is a few days after that. I don't want the attention to be off my mom during her big time, but I don't want to wait. So with your permission, I would like to tell my mother tonight. Her reaction will give me a better idea of planning. I'd say that's more than fair. I just want you to be happy. I just want you. I don't want to wait anymore. It's killing me not being able to be with you, and I hate keeping secrets. I say, and he pulls me into his arms. I get you forever. I can wait a little while longer if it means that your mom is happy. She's a big part of your life, and I don't want you to think that you have to hide or make our relationship public just because of me. I'll always be ready for you. I love you for that. If you want to tell your family and team tomorrow, we can. I'll tell my mom early in the morning and we can gather them at lunch. I really don't mind. I would absolutely love that idea, but not as much as I love you, he says and places the smallest kiss on the tip of my nose. I place one on his and unwrap myself from him so that I can go downstairs and see my mother. I am truly lucky to have gotten this man as my life partner, Cassie's POV. My mom and I went back to my room after dinner and sat down on my bed. My mom had a perpetual smile on her face, and I had no idea what my next move would do to that smile. Mama. I ask in a gentle voice, unsure of how to approach the subject. Yes, baby girl. I have something to tell you. You know that you can tell me anything, baby girl. I found my mate early on in our trip. I wanted you to be focused on your dad and brother and then Cole, so I didn't tell you. Now that everything is settled and you are planning your ceremonies, I feel more ready to publicly accept him. Well, who is it, baby? Alpha Axe. We have accepted our bond in words in front of the Luna, but we kept in private because initially I wanted to be able to focus just on him, but now I don't want to hide it from anybody anymore. I love him and I don't want to hide it, but I don't want to steal your thunder. My love, tell the world. Don't hide your mate. I understand why you would, but you shouldn't. As for stealing my thunder, I will have my thunder in Cole's pack. You will have your thunder in this pack. Be happy. Live your life. She says with the most gentle smile I have ever seen on my mother as she moves a strand of my hair out of my face. Go to him. Him being so close and still so far had to be hard for the two of you. I have no problem with you two sleeping in the same room. As long as it is just sleeping. I don't need to be a grandmother just yet. Of course, Mom. I get up and kiss her head, then walk to the bathroom to change into pajamas. After I'm done, I walk down the hall and stop in front of his door. I hesitantly raise my fist and knock on his door. Come in, the sleepy voice of my mate mumbled. I opened the door, and when I walked in, I was almost completely overwhelmed with his amazing scent. He must have smelled my scent because he looked up in a very sleepy manner and said my name. Cassie, baby, what's up? My mom took the news very well. She was also concerned that we were hurting or not resting as well being apart. She insisted that we sleep in the same room. Strictly sleep, that is. She doesn't want to be a grandmother just yet. I say with a smile from the end of his four-poster bed. Well, then why are you still all the way over there? Come here, I'm tired and want snuggles, he says, rolling over and lifting the blankets on the other side of the bed. I walk over and lay down under the blankets, and he pulled me into his arms. I snuggled my head into the crook of his neck and sighed in content. It took very little time to fall into a deep and restful sleep. When we awoke the next morning, we couldn't help but lay there in each other's arms in peace. When we finally did get up, I went to my room to get dressed, and since it wasn't my day to train today, I decided to surprise everyone and put on a dress. But if I'm going to wear a dress, then there is no way I am wearing shoes. The dress I decide on has a red plaid skirt and no sleeves because it's stupid hot out here. I put on my favorite ring that my uncle got for my mother when they were younger, and an anklet that I got shortly before we left Oregon. I throw my hair in a ponytail and walk downstairs. I look up as I make it to the bottom of the stairs and see Axe talking to his mother with a smile on his face. I see him wearing a shirt that looks like my dress, a simple pair of jeans and no shoes. We have unintentionally matched. His hair is wet and messy, obviously clean but unstyled. His sleeves are rolled up, and can I just say that my mate has some sexy forearms. He has a marking of his forearm that comes from being an alpha, and it shows with his sleeves rolled up. Very sexy indeed. Well, don't you two look adorable? Did you plan this? His mother asks as she looks at the two of us. I have a feeling that she's suspicious about us after this, but we plan on telling her in a few minutes, so I'm not too worried. Hey, Mom, why don't we sit down and have breakfast? I have a pretty big announcement, he says and guides his mother to the table. Most of the usual people are already there. The only one missing is Grandpa Whiskey, who already knows what the announcement is. We all sit down in the spots that have become somewhat assigned since the first day. Whiskey walks in and sits down in his chair before looking at his grandson and then me before looking slightly more awake. Oh, we're doing that now. Well, go on then, son, he says once he realizes what's going on. All right, I have a pretty big announcement to make, he says before pausing to take a deep breath. Cassie is my mate. We've known since I got back from my trip after their arrival, but she wanted to be able to focus strictly on us. Now that her mother is happy, she can. So I present to you your future alpha female. His mother stands and comes to my seat, pulling me up and hugging me. His sister almost squeals and stands to start jumping up and down. The boys all go congratulate him, and my mom walks over to him, probably to threaten him. Wait, so did y'all plan the outfits for this? His sister says, her thick southern drawl coming though. No, that was just convenient, I say with a chuckle. So when should I expect grandbabies? His mother says, looking between the two of us. Not for a little while, although a time frame isn't something we've discussed. I suppose it's mostly up to the Luna, I say with a smile. Well, I'm glad that you two found each other. His sister says before going back to her seat. All right, now that that is out of the way, let's eat, Whiskey says while grabbing the plate of bacon. We all laugh and enjoy a wonderfully cooked breakfast among friends and family. Axe's Pav watching the women I love interacting with my family is one of the best feelings in the world. I can't help but smile as my family tries to get to know her better, and she takes the interrogation in strides. She is truly the best thing to happen to me in a while. I can't wait to start our lives together. A call interrupts my musings. I excuse myself and walk into the next room over to hear whatever the caller has to say. It's my beta with news of an attack on the west border. I tell my family about it and Cassie stands up to join me. Are you going to go check, or are you leaving it to your beta? I'm going. Then I'm going with you. Okay. I don't think there's many, but we'll need to hurry. Can you run in that? Doesn't matter. I'll shift. Let's go then. We shift into our wolf forms and run towards the west border where there are 4 angry rouges waiting. They're currently being held off by my beta and some warriors, but I'm more worried about the 3 other rouges that are being guarded by a 5th angry rouge. The 3 other rouges are smaller and look terrified. It almost looks like a mother and her 2 children. The lead angry wolf steps behind a tree and shifts, throwing on a pair of pants in the process. I want to see my grandchild. The man said. He was older, about the same age as Whiskey. I also walk behind another tree and throw on a pair of pants after shifting. I need some basic information before I can tell you anything about your granddaughter. Your name, for starters, would be great. And while you're at it, get your guard dogs off the others that you have trapped. I say with authority in my voice. My name is Henri Yemen. My son was killed for loving his mate. I think you have the wrong pack, I say. A moment later, Cassie speaks, shocking me because I didn't notice her shift. She's wearing one of my shirts and it comes down to her mid-thigh. What was your son's name and his mate's? Will Yemen. I don't know her name. They met in secret for she was betrothed. They were preparing to run away when they were caught. He was killed, and she was pregnant. I want to meet the child she had. My mate is right. You do have the wrong pack. This is not the one that killed your son, and I greatly apologize for the grief you must have experienced. But I may know of your granddaughter. How long ago was this? Cassie says with a look of sorrow on her face. It was almost 40 years ago. If it is not your fault, please, child, don't apologize. Your breath is wasted in an apology that isn't yours to make. How can you help me? If you would like to follow us to the main office, we can discuss more there. Let us get the others to the infirmary and call off the guard dogs. Boys, you can go. Let the woman go. The boys do, as he says, and he looks at me for permission to enter the territory, and when granted, he walks next to us and has us lead the way. We get to the infirmary, and the warriors take the lady and her pups in, whilst my mate, my beta, and I take Orny to my office. When we get there, I walk over to my chair and sit down, and Cassie sits on the edge of my knee. James, my beta, stands in the corner, ready to attack should he have to. What do you know of my grandchild? He commands more than asks. His voice holds no power, and I believe that there is no malice, just desperation. I know someone with a very similar story. A lady I'm very close to was recently told that her mother was betrothed to a man she knew as her father, but found her mate. Her mother's father was a cruel man and killed her mate when he found out she was sneaking out to see him. After that, her and her betrothed were married quickly after. She never revealed to her father that she was pregnant until after the marriage, so her father just thought it was her husband's. She had my friend and one other child, a son, and when my friend was 18, she kicked her out. It was only recently that my friend's mother divorced her husband and left. The women had verbally abused my friend because she looked like her mate. It was a harsh reminder for her. He is silent for a moment and then responds with a slight strain on his voice. Could I meet your friend? I'll know if she is my son's daughter. It is worth the shot. I'll call her down here. My mate says with a sympathetic look on her face. While she mind-links her mother, I ask some questions that have been slightly bothering me. Why did you wait so long? Why wait almost 40 years to look for your grandchild? I wanted to look sooner, but I'm a rouge. I had a small pack to look after, and I was, honestly, too grief-stricken. I almost failed to lead my pack. I was in no place to look for my grandchild. I wasn't mentally stable enough to do anything. I had already lost my mate, and then the only piece of her I had left died, and I was broken. Then, for your sake, I hope this is your grandchild. I can't imagine losing Cassie. It's a fate worse than death. Cassie, what's going on? We've talked about this. You can't do the vague mind links. Ari says as she walks into the office without knocking. I imagine that was part of the vague instructions that my beautiful mate left for her. Henri stands up and turns to look at her, and I can tell by the slight shaking that his eyes are watering. Cassie, who's this? This is Henri Yemen. You look so much like him. And her, he whispers, but we all hear. Who? Cassie asks in an almost whisper herself. My son and mate. They were both taken from me at separate times. I'm your grandfather. How? You say I look like your son, but I can't confirm that. My biological father was killed before I was born. My son was killed for loving his mate because she was betrothed. We have a very valid reason to believe that I'm your biological granddaughter." I look just like him, and he looked just like my mate. Would you be opposed to a DNA test? I have no source of reference and I've been burnt too many times. I understand, I would not be opposed. Cassie, would you text your father and ask him to meet me here? I need my mate with me. Your mate? Cassie is your stepdaughter. No, she's my daughter. I gave birth to her. What would make you think she wasn't? She only ever called you my friend. I'm sure that you can understand what I'm talking about. Yes, I can. It's Cassie's way of taking precautions, so I apologize for her. I would want to protect you too, and I'm sorry I couldn't before now. They continue conversing, and after a couple of minutes, Cole walks in and kisses his mate on the head. They fill him in on the events of the morning, including Cassie and I being mates, to which he looks surprised. He realizes that he would be stupid to oppose and just threatens me before going back to his mate. But it's good so see him making an effort into being a father. We schedule for the blood test to be done, and everyone leaves except for Cassie, who just sits on my desk. I've only just realized that she's still just in my shirt, so I mind link someone to bring her some proper clothes. Have I mentioned how beautiful my mate is? Because she is a goddess. If I didn't know any better, I would say she was the Luna herself. She is definitely a gift from the Luna, and I couldn't have asked for a better mate. How do I deserve her? Cassie's pav to say that meeting my great-grandfather was a shock would be an understatement. I can't say that I'm upset about it, but at the same time, I can't help but be wary. I didn't feel any untruth come from him, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't any. My instincts are good, but they aren't perfect. Even now, as I sit here going over coronation things with my soon-to-be mother-in-law, I can't help but be slightly suspicious of the man. My mother trusted him, and she was hardly ever wrong, but the fact that he was in grief for so long and that he lost his mate are making me wary. When a male wolf loses his mate, he can go feral. It's shocking that he hasn't yet. I zoned back into the conversation that was happening around me to hear my future mother-in-law and sister-in-law talking about colors. I had told them that I really only wanted to choose the dress and that I didn't care about the other things. They quickly agreed and took over without a second thought. So here I sit, not paying attention to what will essentially be my wedding. To be fair, though, I never thought I would get married. Suddenly, Cass and Emily snap the books closed and we hear walking and smell the boys. They're coming in from working outside on some yard maintenance and stick, but their mate scent covers that pretty well. I feel sorry for Emily since all she can smell is the nasty scent of sweaty male. I give her a sympathetic look to which she gives me a thankful smile as my mate comes to stand behind me. He leans on my shoulders as he looks at his family with a gentle smile. Y'all stink, and I'm upset that I'm the only one who has to smell it. Emily says and gets up to walk away. Well, that was easy. So what were y'all talking about? Wedding stuff. His mom answers. Give the kids a break then. How about you two go on a date? I know that neither of you really care about the details of the wedding, so go hang out. They need some time to get to know each other more. I suppose you're right. Well then, you guys can go, but I swear, son, if you don't shower, I will ground you, grown alpha or not. His mother said as she stood up and followed her husband up the stairs. Well, you heard the women. Come on, you can wait in my room while I shower. Snoop for all I care, we're mates so I have nothing to hide. He says and leads me up the stairs to his room. He gathers his clothes and then goes to his ensuite to shower while I lay on his bed and read on my phone. It doesn't take long for him to come out of the bathroom with a pair of sleep pants on. I happen to know that they came from Walmart because I have the same pants. They are a pair of black pants with the bat symbol on them. Simple and comfortable. I can't help but smile at this and see him smile at me with a little bit of confusion. I just wave it off and he jumps onto the bed next to me, settling in and then facing me so that we are laying like a cheesy couple from a teen book. So, get to know each other, he asks, and I nod. How many boyfriends have you had? None. I was always too busy to even consider having a relationship, and even if I wasn't interested in anyone until I saw your eyes, and then I was only interested in you. What about you? I tried when I was like 5, but then Mom explained to me what a mate was, and I was done trying with anyone who wasn't my mate. And then I saw your eyes and knew I was done for. Haven't really thought about much besides you and work since then. This pleases me, I say with a small smile. I'm glad. Being around you pleases me. he says with a laugh and a breathtaking smile. All right, that was just cheesy. You love it. I love you. This is just a part of you that I'm stuck with. It's part of the charm. I'm 100% sure that you wouldn't trade it for anything else. Why would I? You're perfect for me and there's nothing wrong with you. Therefore, nothing to trade or change. Now who's being cheesy? It's part of the charm, I say, standing and going to the kitchen. That's my line, he shouts after me. I can hear the smile in his voice and grab an apple for me and for him, along with some cheese and jerky because why the heck not? I return to the room and see him on his phone. I walk up behind him and wrap my arms around him, the stress on his face becoming obvious. Okay, we'll be there soon. Thank you for letting me know. Yes, I'll let her know. See you soon. And with that, he ends the call. Cole's pack was attacked. They don't know why, and it was very sudden. No one was majorly injured from his pack, but he still wants us to come down. Your mom is fine and Cole only has a scratch, but he wouldn't say how big. They want us down there. Okay. Let me put on some actual clothes and we can head down. What's wrong with the clothes you're wearing? If you're going in pajamas, I am too. Besides, these jeans are constrictive and I'm tired of wearing them. I mean, fair enough. All right, I'll tell everyone and you change into PJs. When we get back, we'll take a sleep. Based on that sentence, you need a sleep. Fight me, I had a long day. Let's go, doofus. I have no doubt that Cole was sparing us details. Tilde, okay, so I know that I am a piece of crap for taking so long to upload, but I have a good reason. Okay, no, I don't. Finals were a bit ago and I haven't been terribly busy. I just haven't had the motivation to write. I intend to get another chapter out before next week, but I make exactly 0 promises. Anywho, happy 4th of July or random day of the week and enjoy the chapter. Also, thank you for 47.1K reads and 1.4K votes. Honestly, this makes me so happy. Cassie's POV, the drive to Cole's pack, wasn't something I stressed about. Even when I saw the carnage that was left behind after the attack, I trusted Cole when he said no one was hurt. I saw my mom waiting on the doorstep and pacing, and that was when I got stressed. Still, I wouldn't show it because Mom needed a shoulder. Mom, what's wrong? Cole is in the infirmary and I don't want to stress him out because the cut on his arm is pretty bad. He told us it wasn't that bad. How are you? I'm fine, just a bump on my head. The cut he got required stitches, but he refused help until he saw that his pack was fine. Sweetie, he almost passed out from the blood loss before he went back. Well then, let's go check on him. I'll walk back with you. Axel, can you come with us? I know Cole wanted to talk to you about something. Of course, Ari. We all walk back and see that there are only minor injuries that are being taken care of. When we get back to the area with doctors running around like headless chickens, we see Cole on a gurney with an arm over his eyes and his shirt off showing a scratch that goes the length of his arm. It's currently being stitched up because Werewolf healing wouldn't heal it fast enough. The stitches will come out in a day or two, but they will have to stay in and painkillers won't do jack, so Cole is in obvious pain. Oh, Cole, how are you doing? I'm fine, my love. Really, how are you? Headache? Are you cold, hungry, or thirsty? Can I get you anything? Cole asks, the concern clear on his face. He earned some more respect for worrying about my mother despite his clear injury. Cole, let me worry about you. You're the one who stopped people from getting major injuries and you suffered the worst. Stop fretting about me and let me fret about you. I would suffer worse for you. How are you kids? We're fine, Cole. Do you know why you were attacked? There were a couple of rouges that had teamed up in their last bout with Sanity and decided to attack. There were 3 of them and 80 of us present at the time, but one was slightly more sane. The other 2 turned on each other and killed each other, but the leader went for me to try and win a pack. He lost his humanity at the last minute and lost his life. We burnt the bodies. So it was a one-off kind of thing. We shouldn't have to worry about another targeted attack, Axel asks, wrapping his arms around me. No, it was 3 crazy rogues. You'll be the first I tell should I suspect different. Now why don't you 2 lovely ladies take a walk and get something to eat while I talk to this young man? Cassie, your mother hasn't had dinner yet. Have your little man talk. Babe, what do you want to eat? I'll bring you something, I ask Axel. I'll have whatever you're having, I'm not picky. He kisses my forehead and Mom and I go towards the kitchen in silence. Granted, the silence doesn't last. He treats you right. Mom and I say at the same time. We both chuckle and smile at each other. I'm glad Cole is trying. He makes you happy and treats you like you should have been years ago. I wish you the best in your relationship. Ditto, my love. We gather food and take it back to the boys, who are having a conversation about Axel treating me right and taking care of me properly. I can't help but laugh a little, but I guess Cole would know. I smile a little at him, giving him the dad speech, but interrupt him with food. They both light up at the sight of food. We all eat in relative silence, and then Mom sends us home, saying she's staying with Cole for the night. We get back to the car and drive out of the territory holding hands. We give a swift update to the pack and then head up to bed. We sleep side by side in our matching pajamas. Okay, so I'm sorry this chapter is shorter, but the story is coming to an end soon, and I felt this was a good stopping place for this chapter. I will try to have another one soon, but I can't make a promise of it being within the week. Enjoy. Cassie's POV as I stood beside my mother, who was sat in front of a vanity getting her makeup done. I couldn't help the joy that I felt. My mother was happy, getting married, mated, and was going to be treated like the queen she is. She looks incredibly nervous, but you can see that she's happy nonetheless. After her makeup and hair are done, she stands and starts to pace around the room, the blue dress she's wearing trailing behind in an elegant sweep. With her hair in its updo and her makeup kept simple, it was weird to see. I've never seen my mother this stressed out or this dressed up. She is absolutely stunning. Now if I could just get her to calm down before she sweat her makeup off. Mom, calm down. You're stressing over nothing. This man loves you and would die for you at any given moment, I say and walk over to her, sitting her down on the couch in the reserved room. I know, it's just a big change. I went from it just being the two of us on our own, and now we're going to farther than we've ever been, and you're growing up so fast. It's all happening so quickly, and I just don't know how to handle it. With your head held high and the grace of a queen, I say and smile at her. That's what you told me while I was growing up. When life was tough, you hold your head high and walk with the grace of a queen. Be a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet inside and dangerous outside. It's not easy. You of all people should know that. It's time to grow up. You get a second chance at love, one that you're willing to take. Besides, it's not like I'm going very far. You'll still be able to visit often and meet your grandchildren when we finally have them. But for now, focus on going out there and becoming who the Luna above meant for you to be, I say and kiss her on her head. I'm the one who's supposed to give you this talk on the day of your wedding. She says, and we both chuckle. Well, you can give it to me later today. I can't believe I'm getting married, and you're making me wear a dress. I can, however, believe that you aren't wearing white for your own wedding. That isn't shocking in the least. Cassie's POV, the time is quickly approaching. I'm sitting in my room at the pack house, putting on the dress that I need to wear for my ceremonies. We decided last minute to not have a wedding, but to have Dad walk me down the aisle. We just want to be together and can have a big wedding ceremony later if we want to. We did sign a marriage certificate, and all of that is being taken care of by the justice of the peace. As for my dad walking me down the aisle, I decided to make an effort since he is. As long as he treats my mom right, we won't have problems. We also decided that we would have vows and say them on our own in private. I don't know if I've ever been this excited for something in all my life. Even the thought of meeting my mate wasn't this exciting. Now I'm sitting in a room surrounded by my mate's family and my newly mated mother as we get me ready for my own alpha female ceremony. All right, dear, time to get you into your dress, Cassandra says and pulls the garment bag out of the closet. The dress is a traditional style dress that would be worn for a crowning ceremony. It was also as close to a wedding dress that my parents would be seeing me in for a little while. I breathe in deeply as Cass tightens the corset that's in the dress and resist the urge to run my fingers through my hair. I'm not used to it being down and in my face, so this is really weird. I want you all to know that I'm truly grateful for all that y'all are doing for me and all that you have done for my mother and me. I couldn't ask for a better family to join. Thank you, I say to the beautiful group of women around me. They all look like they're about to cry. I can't help but panic at the looks on their faces. Oh, sweetheart, we are so happy that our boy has you. You are beautiful inside and out, and Ma Bucher Ka Ti a Latchery family, she says. Mom, you switched languages, Emily says, laying a hand on her mother's shoulder. It's fine. I speak Romanian. I learned it after meeting Whiskey and hearing him speak the language. I was instantly enchanted, I say with a slight smile. I am also glad to be joining the family. All right, it's almost time, so remember to speak loudly and calmly and don't touch your hair. Your dad should be here in a minute to walk you down the aisle and give you away, and then the ceremony will commence. Mom, I know how this works. I planned yours and mine and helped Alpha Lily with hers. I know how this is going to go, Mom, so take a deep breath and relax. We've got this, I say as there's a knock on the door. Are you ready to go, Cass? Cole asks as he walks into the room. He looks at me and his breath catches in his throat. You look gorgeous. It breaks my heart that I wasn't there to see you become the amazing young woman that you have become. I am extremely happy that you have allowed me to walk you towards your future. I smile gently at him and take a deep breath, walking towards him. We loop our arms together, and the ladies in the room run to their seats and sit waiting for us to walk down the aisle. The area behind the pack house looks absolutely gorgeous. They put together a fabric canopy and had lights strung between the fabric to give it a glow. That was situated in front of the woods where the pack would run tonight at midnight. The chairs were simple wood folding chairs and had stumps with vases of yellow daisies on them. Guests filled the seats from both our pack and Cole's pack together, as well as some of the neighboring alphas who could make it away from their packs for the event. Everyone was smiling, and some people were taking pictures of my father and me as we walked down the aisle. At the very end of the never-ending aisle was my handsome husband. He was looking at me with complete adoration in his eyes. They glistened, and I couldn't help but fall more and more in love with his mismatched eyes. The way the light is shining on them is mesmerizing, and I almost don't notice that we've made it to the front. My father kisses my hands and gives them to my husband, and the ceremony. Hidden moon. Whiskey says, followed by cheers from our pack members. He smiles at the crowd and Axe and I smile at each other. We stand today before our alpha, Axe Dragost, and his mate, Cassie Mora, as they join themselves in a union before God and the Luna above. Cassie, do you swear before God, the Luna above, and all of these witnesses to love, cherish, and protect Axe and this pack with everything in you till death are you taken? I swear it in front of God, the Luna above, and all of these witnesses. Axe, the blood knife. My love hands his grandfather the ceremonial knife, and the incision is made in both of our hands. We join them, and a glow surrounds the both of us, signifying that the Luna is pleased. Whiskey smiles at the two of us. Hidden moon of North Carolina, I present to you your alpha pair. Shouts surround us as we look deeply into each other's eyes, and Axe asks me a very important question. May I kiss you, my love? I think you'd better, dearest husband. Happy New Year. It is 2020 everywhere. I have a lot going on this year that's got me in a slight panic, so there will either be an increase in writing or a decrease. It just depends on how stressed out I get. I can promise, however, that I will have the epilogue out before January 16th, and hopefully it will be out before the end of next week. But school starts back and finals are soon after that, so we'll see. Thank you for reading. Tell me what you think about this chapter and have a great year. Cassie's POV. My love, have I mentioned how beautiful you are, both inside and out? It amazes me more and more every day. My charming husband says, carrying me to our room, bridal style. There was an after party that lasted about an hour, but now we're on our way to say our vows. We chose to do it in private because we agreed that it was for our ears and those of the goddess, should she choose to listen. You have mentioned it, but you have never given me a chance to tell you just how amazing you are in everything you do. You are a young alpha who was able to focus on your studies and your duties while keeping up with your family. You are most certainly more magnificent than I say and kiss him as he lays me on the bed. He lays down beside me and we just look at each other for a moment. T iubesk my multicat viata. Tu esti total mu absolut si nu imputut sir unpartner my bun. Tu esti lumina me in intuneric, motivol mu pentru care treask. Nu myas dori nimic my multicat sa crees on veter ku tine. Viatorol p care zita ella proiectat. Tu esti total pentru mine. He says and leans his forehead into mine and gently kisses my nose. Esti sel my bun lucru care my essa in tamplat vriadata. De asamenia, nu imputut sir unpartner my bun. Esti tot siem nevoi. Esti binecuventaria me dighizata si inima me. Zita ku siguranta Emma binecuvantet cand my tia dat p tine. I say with a gentle smile. He looks at me with adoration in his eyes and kisses me like there's no tomorrow. How about we start on those 7 kids? He says, and I can't help but agree. Tilda 6 months later, are we going to go visit your parents today? My husband asks as he finishes getting dressed. Yeah, Mom called earlier and told me she has some news to share. We have some too, I suppose. We can tell them when we see later today. Are you ready to go? Yes, you look absolutely marvelous, darling. May I? He says, and I give him a quick kiss. After 6 months of marriage, he still asks before he kisses me every time. Ditto, my love, I say after our brief kiss. I find myself falling more and more for him each and every day, and even when I think I simply can't fall anymore in love. He does something stupid, and all I can think is, yep, that's mine. Let's be on our way. We should do a family dinner soon. It'd be nice to have the family together again. But do we have a table big enough for all the family? My grandparents, that's 4. My parents and yours, that makes 8. Whiskey makes 9. Your 2 brothers, your sister, my uncle, and the 2 of us. Plus the betas and gammas and any mates that I didn't think to account for. Do we have a table to seat upwards of 20 people? We'll make it a picnic. I'm not sure that your mother's grandfather will be able to handle too much time indoors. Him being a free spirit and all, I know that whiskey won't last too long inside. He would lose his mind with that many people in one room. Agreed. All right, we can arrange for a picnic, but I would like it to be for both packs to be completely welcome. They count as family too. Sounds good. We'll arrange it for the end of the month. Do you think that that works for everyone? Only one way to find out. Come on, I don't want to be late. The drive to the meeting place, a cafe on the mutual ground in the city nearby, took no time at all, and we saw Mom and Cole looking excitedly at each other. They were sat on the patio area, enjoying the breeze that came with the surprisingly warm day. Cole saw us approaching first and stood to greet us. Mom followed suit, looking extremely joyous, and she seemed to be glowing. Cassie. It's been too long, my mom says and throws her arms around my neck, nearly choking me in the process. Mom, it's been about a week. We meet for lunch once a week, I say and hug her around her waist. I know, but it's been a long week. Okay, sit, we have much to discuss. Cassie acts, it's good to see you two again. You too, Cole, Axe says as we sit. I nod to Cole, still switching between which name I use for him. I haven't ever had a father, so getting used to the name is taking a while. Okay, we have some really big and really surprising news, Mom says and smiles at Cole. He lovingly grins back in response. We're pregnant. They both look on the verge of tears, but the smiles tell me they're happy tears. Mom, I'm so happy for you. Thank you, my love. I didn't think this would or even could happen. We get the chance to parent again. Oh, I could just weep. As she said this, tears started streaming down her face, and Cole immediately wrapped her up in a comforting hug. The 2 of them are at peace at this moment. They both deserve this, and I couldn't be more happy for them. Well, Ari, we also have news on this joyous occasion, my husband says and looks at me. We both smile at each other and then turn to my parents. We're also pregnant. Tilda, and so our story comes to an end. I wish I could say that I was one of those authors that was in tears at the thought of it, but I'm not. I've said in the past that I have a sequel in the works, and that when it's done, I will start posting it. That is still the plan, and I plan on having it done before this exact date next year. Depending on how quickly I finish it, I may even post the first part on this day, though. As I said, I hope to have it done sooner. This will also be going through some editing, but that will probably wait until I am already posting the sequel. Thank you to all my new readers and the ones who have been with me from the beginning. I owe any success to all of you and truly appreciate it. Yes, even you silent readers. All of you matter, so for the final time in this book, have a nice day. Vow translations. I love you more than life. You're my absolute everything, and I couldn't ask for a better partner. You are my light in the dark, my reason for living. I wouldn't want anything more than to create a future with you. The future the goddess designed. You're everything to me. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Also, I couldn't ask for a better partner. You're all I need. You are my blessing in disguise and my heart. The goddess certainly blessed me when she gave me you. Updated on my birthday as promised. Hey, y'all. So I love when authors do that thing where y'all ask the characters questions and they answer. To me, that's one of the funniest things that an author could do, so I decided that I would do it. So if you guys have any questions for me or the characters, go ahead and ask them below, and when I have enough, I'll write the chapter answering them. It can be for any of the characters or myself, but I'm really interested in doing this. Well, nobody asked for it and only a few people actually asked questions, but I'm eager to write it, so here you go. Cassie, do you always have to be this excited? Absolutely not. I don't like using periods when I'm talking via text message. It just seems rude. Ari, you worry me sometimes. Don't be rude. I can screw up your life, Ari. You wouldn't. You're too nice. Besides, you've already determined our futures. You're writing the second book already. It's literally open in the next tab. I'm blaming pregnancy hormones for the attitude. Cassie, you know it's not pregnancy hormones. All right, onto the questions. 1 at Maddie Landers asks, how many kids do they end up having? And what genders? Upside down face BTW, I love this story, Thank you. I love seeing all the comments and seeing all the active readers. It's really encouraging. Cassie, and as for your actual question, we the characters don't know. As far as we know right now, I am currently in my first pregnancy and we know that it is twin boys. We want more, but it's up to the moon goddess and the author here. Ari, and we are expecting a Cole. Do we have to tell them? Ari, don't interrupt. Your mother would be disappointed in your lack of manners. And yes, you do have to tell. Cole, muttering fine. Ari, we're having a boy. Just the one. We're not lucky enough to have more than one. Cole, and we're getting older, so I don't know how many more we're going to have. To be determined. 2. Do you want to become a vampire? Are you tired of human being, having talented brain turning to a vampire in a good posture in 10 minutes, without delaying in a good human posture and becoming immortal? A world of vampire where life get easier. We have made so much persons vampires and have turned them rich. You will assured long life and prosperity. You shall be made to be very sensitive to mental alertness, stronger and also very fast. You will not be restricted to walk at night, only even at the very middle of broad daylight you will be made to walk. This is an opportunity to have the vampire virus to perform in a good posture. If you are interested, contact us on our email vampireslords437@gmail.com. What, Cole? I have no idea. Why would you include this one, It was included on the questions page, so it's being asked. Cassie, can you explain it though? Yes, it was commented on every chapter and I had to report the commenter for spam. I didn't take the time to delete the comments, but there you go. Cassie, moving on then. 3 at Jadace Potato asks, a couple of questions for Cass. Why do you do underground fighting? Is it just to ease boredom, like working at a nightclub? Also, are you not upset that your mother and father will be raising a child together as a family? I know it was your idea not to see him and all, and they both love you very much, but does it not hurt? Cassie. I did street fighting when I was younger because I was really good at fighting and thought I could make some money off of it, but I was too young to go into the professional circuit.